My childhood friend thinks I'm too well-behaved, but he falls for a poorer student who's even more well-behaved than me. To spite him, I started acting out and got involved with a troublemaker, until I had no choice but to beg him for help. He ignored me, covering the poor student's eyes with his hand and gently said, "Don't look, it might scare you." I was left in that dark alley, tortured to death. I opened my eyes and found myself back on the day my childhood friend rejected me. 1. While cutting the cake, they egged me on to confess. I mustered up my courage and said, "Suche, my birthday wish is you." Suche's hand holding the cigarette trembled. He smirked, teasingly said, "Sorry, you're just too well behaved, not really my type." In my previous life, those words drove me insane. Thinking of the horrific state before my death, I'm freezing. I could kill Suche right now. Xingxia, are you okay? Suche, you really know how to ruin the mood. Can't you say something nice to make the birthday person happy? Suche still has that carefree attitude, exhaling smoke rings, lazily said, "I can't learn to lie." His languid Beijing accent was quite charming, but to me, it just felt disgusting. In front of everyone, I turned cold and made a new birthday wish. "Suche, I hope that for all eternity, we never cross paths again." I blew out the candles. They tried to stop me, but failed. Suche's smile froze on his face. "Xingxia, are you serious? I'll give you one more chance, make a new wish, and I'll pretend I didn't hear anything just now." "No need." I ignored him. "Pick up the knife and cut the cake." Suche rushed towards me, his right hand gripping the blade. "Xingxia, I'm talking to you." The blade cut his finger. Blood started to flow. Someone exclaimed, "Blood." "Suche, you're bleeding." "I know, he's having another episode." Suche has a severe mental illness. In my past life, only I could stop his episodes. Oh, to be precise, before the poor student appeared, only I can. Because of this, I always thought I was special to him until I heard the lazy, soothing tone he used with the poor student. "She's not like you, she's nothing more than a placebo. You, on the other hand, are my only cure. Without you, I would die." I let go and said, "Since you like it so much, I'll give it to you." As I turned to leave, Suche threw down the knife and grabbed me. My white shirt was stained by his bloodied fingers. "Xingxia, who are you throwing a tantrum for?" Blood terrifies me. I couldn't control myself. Thoughts of my past life flooded back. The dizziness was unbearable, and I fainted. When I woke up, Suche was by my bedside, awake. "It was you who made me angry, yet I had to carry you back." "Xingxia, how do you plan to make it up to me?" Suche is a playboy. He always says these ambiguous things. It makes me have unreasonable expectations. But I am no longer the person I used to be. I am well aware. When faced with someone he truly likes, Suche can't even muster a flirtatious remark, and his voice trembles when confessing. I sighed and said, "I'm tired, Suche, let's not see each other anymore." 02. The next day, I went to school alone. Suche didn't wait for me. I know, this is his way of punishing me. He was waiting for me to apologize, but I ignored him all day. In the afternoon, I was sleeping in the classroom and someone woke me up. "Summer, wake up. Suche is fighting with someone at the basketball court." I wasn't fully awake yet. I was dragged to the basketball court by my desk mate. "You'd better go check it out. Suche is going crazy, and only you can stop him." No, he was wrong. I didn't even need to go over, because his leading lady has already appeared. I guessed right. When we arrived, Suche had already stopped fighting and was sitting to the side, drenched in sweat. Beside him sat a girl. She had her hair in a low ponytail. Her face serene, holding his hand, her voice slightly choked, whispered softly, "Suche, you're hurt." Suche hates contact with outsiders the most, tried to pull his hand back, but when his eyes met mine, he stopped, his gaze darkened, and he allowed Shen Mingzhen to hold his hand. The senior he beat up left with the help of his classmates. "Wait," he called out to them. He pointed to Shen Mingzhen beside him. "Apologize." The senior got beaten up badly. His classmates urged him. "Suche, let her go to the hospital first." Suche refused, his voice low and heavy, repeating, "I said, apologize to her." Shen Mingzhen grabbed Suche's hand and shook her head. "It's okay, Suche, I'm fine." The senior got beaten up like that and still had to bow and apologize. Someone asked him why he got beaten up. His deskmate replied, he called someone a poor student, and Suche heard it. Serves him right. Who told him to be so mouthy? Suche is so handsome, a hero saving the beauty. A sweet campus romance coming into my life. Only I know the truth isn't what it seems. In my past life, the senior was forced to transfer schools by Suche. Before leaving, he approached me. He warned me to be careful of Shinmingjin. He refused to say anything more, probably because he was scared of Suche. My senior needs to go to the hospital, and it will take some time for the ambulance to arrive. I ran over and said, "Take my car." My senior was taken aback and said, "Thank you, but no need." Suche ran over and grabbed my arm. "Midsummer, are you deliberately trying to upset me?" I glanced behind him, where Shinmingjin stood with red eyes. "Mind your own business. If you dare to leave, don't come looking for me again." I didn't look back. I followed my senior with my classmates, envious. Bang, the crowd behind me stirred. Suche smashed a fist into the basketball hoop. TSK, doesn't mind the pain. 3. Suche and I haven't had much interaction lately. It's said that he hasn't been fighting for a long time because of Shinmingjin. He even decided to turn over a new leaf and study hard. Suche's buddies called him to go online. Shinmingjin whispered to him, "You haven't memorized your English words yet." Suche let out a deep sigh and plopped back down. "My family's strict. I can't go." Stories like these, I hear from my deskmate every day. Every time they see me approaching, they stop talking and turn to their own tasks. She's so pitiful. Yeah, she's been chasing Suche for so long, only to be outdone by a poor student. Is she really pitiful? I don't think so. My overseas paperwork is all set. Once I pass the English exam, I'll be heading abroad to study. I'll be studying my favorite subject, journalism. My bright and wonderful new life is about to begin. That day after school, Suche's mom stopped me and said, "Xingxia, Suche forgot his medicine again. Could you help me give it to him?" I really wanted to refuse. But seeing the bruises on Suche's mother's wrist, I sighed and said, "Alright." I asked Suche, "Where are you?" He took a long time to reply and sent me a location, billiard hall. In my previous life, I frequented this place. Once I arrived, I went downstairs with ease. The pungent smoke made me feel nauseous. I spotted Suche in an instant. He was standing at the central pool table, gambling with someone. A thick stack of cash was placed on the table. I walked over and tossed the medicine to him. "Your mom asked me to give this to you." "Sami." Suche frowned and said, "Who told you to come?" I completely ignored him, left the medicine and walked away. Was stopped by someone. "Suche, is she your girlfriend?" Suche smirked, took the cigarette he offered, and tucked it behind his ear. "Do you really think that's possible?" Shinmingjin walked in with her backpack. As soon as she entered, she started coughing non-stop. Suche stood up and blocked her path, put out all the cigarettes. The guy with the yellow teeth who stopped me just grinned. "Looks like the real sister-in-law is here." Shinmingjin's face turned completely red. "Suche, don't talk nonsense. The teacher said we can't." "I know." Suche gently hooked her nose. "Be good, call me Gidge, and I'll let you go." Shinmingjin exclaimed and pointed at the cigarette behind his ear. "Suche, didn't you promise me you'd quit smoking?" I noticed Suche's gaze fixed on me. Suddenly, I remembered I had asked him to quit smoking before. Because I've had asthma since I was a child, I can't stand the smell of smoke. Back then, he wouldn't even pretend to consider it. Instead, he deliberately blew smoke rings in my face and said, "I can't do that." A cold smile curved my lips. I tried to slip away from the crowd. Someone grabbed me again. "Don't leave, little sister." "Suche, hurry up, it's 2v2, and my girlfriend is already here. Who are you going to send in for?" "I just left." Shinmingjin grabbed my sleeve. I don't know how to play billiards." I frowned and said, "What does it have to do with me?" Shinmingjin's eyes reddened after I scolded her. Suche ran over, shielded her behind him, and questioned me. "Can't you speak properly, crazy?" I wanted to leave, but he stopped me. Fed up, I deliberately provoked him. "What's up, Suche? Playing hard to get, trying to make me your girlfriend? You're dreaming." "Then don't stop me. I'm leaving." This time, no one stopped me. Shinmingjin panicked behind him and asked, "What should we do?" "Suche, I don't know how to play billiards." Suche patiently comforted her. "Silly girl, with me here, we won't lose." I have no interest in the outcome of their match. It was only during dinner in the evening, my mom kept sighing, saying, "Today I saw Xiaohe again, covered in bruises. Lao Su is really going too far. By the way, Xia, why haven't I seen Suche come over for dinner these days? Did you two have a fight?" "No." "That's good, you should invite him over more often." I looked up, interrupting my mom. "I broke off my friendship with him." "Huh? Why?" I took a bite of the tender fish, no reason. Just hate people who can't see. My mom asked cautiously, has Suche fallen in love? I picked up a piece of fish and placed it in my mom's bowl. Yeah, life imitating literature. It's sweet. They're acting in an idol drama and they even had to drag me, a random extra, into playing the female supporting role. As soon as I arrived at the classroom in the morning, I heard Shen Mingjin crying, what should we do, Suche? It was in my bag this morning, but now it's gone, my deskmate told me. Shen Mingjin's class fee that she was in charge of is missing, and everyone is helping her look for it now. I casually said, can't we just check the surveillance footage? Shen Mingjin reacted defensively, I never said she stole the class fee, what's the rush? Suche walked over and coldly commanded, apologize to her. I placed my backpack on the desk and sat down. He threw his backpack away. He also flipped the table. Suche is having another episode. Apologize to her, can't you hear? The students held their breath, not daring to make a sound. No one dared to step forward and stop it. I bent down, trying to lift my desk. Suche grabbed my neck. He was furious, saying, apologize, to her. I couldn't breathe. Tears welled up in my eyes, and a red mark quickly formed around my neck. Shen Mingjin stopped him. Suche, he wouldn't listen to anyone. He looked at me with bloodshot eyes. I don't know who he thought I was. It was a few teachers who rushed in, separated us, and Shen Mingjin stepped forward to hold the frenzied Suche. It's okay, Suche, I don't care about others, as long as you believe in me. He buried his head in her shoulder, but his gaze was fixed on me. I was taken to the infirmary by the teachers. His gaze was dark and complex, kept staring at my retreating back. 5. Suche's father arrived. A slap almost sent Suche to the ground. You little brat, I see you've really grown some guts. You even dare to hit Xiaxia. Do you need a beating? He said, and was about to kick Suche. It was Shen Mingjin who stepped in. Uncle, Suche was protecting me. If you want to hit someone, hit me. Suche glared coldly at him. Touch her, and I'll take your life. I really don't want to get entangled with them. I asked the teacher, can I leave now? My throat is so hoarse, it's hard to speak. The teacher didn't even have time to pay attention to me. As I left, I saw Suche and his father fighting, with Shen Mingjin and the teacher trying to break it up. The scene was extremely chaotic. It wasn't until I got home in the evening that I saw Suche's mother waiting for me. As soon as she saw me, she gasped and covered her mouth. Xiaxia, Suche. My mom was also startled. She ran over and asked me, did Suche do this? I nodded, taking this opportunity to clarify things. Auntie, as you can see, Suche now hates me. If you need anything in the future, please contact him directly. I can't help you anymore. Xiaxia. Suche's mother sighed and ultimately said nothing. My dad saw that I was injured. He was heartbroken. I need to go to Suche's house to have a talk. I stopped him and said, no need, Dad. I'm leaving for abroad soon, and I don't want any further involvement with Suche. My dad sighed and said, I'm sorry to have put you through this, my dear. No, I shook my head. Dad, I'm not. What I said was true. To be alive and to pursue my dreams, getting pinched is nothing to about. The next day, Shen Mingjin apologized to me. Xingxia, I'm sorry, Suche was just too impulsive. I'm apologizing on his behalf, but I really didn't steal the class funds. Suche has already returned them for me. You don't need to report your matters to me. I interrupted her subtle display of affection. She's been doing this kind of thing since her previous life. She pretends to be my friend on the surface, but in reality, she's showing off her superiority. Back then, she made me so angry that I did a lot of regrettable things. I won't fall for the same trap twice. If there's nothing else, I'll head back to the classroom. Shen Mingjin grabbed my hand and said, anyway, I'm really sorry, Xingxia. Please don't be mad at Suche. I couldn't help but laugh out loud. Does Suche have no mouth? Does he need you to speak for him? And just so you don't forget, let me remind you that I've known Suche for 19 years. I know him better than you do. Isn't that what you like to do? Sneak around? Then I'll play that sneaky game too, as expected. Hearing that we're childhood friends, Shen Mingjin's eyes darkened, and tears were about to fall. Really? I turned my head and only then saw Suche standing in the shadows. I pretended not to see him and walked forward. He kept staring at my neck. I wonder what she's thinking. Shen Mingjin ran over and said, I wanted to apologize to Xingxia on your behalf, but for some reason, she seems upset. Suche retracted his gaze and pinched her cheek. Nosy, what? Shen Mingjun wondered if she had heard wrong. Suche pinched her face painfully. Don't do anything unnecessary like that again, she doesn't deserve your apology. Shen Mingjun breathed a sigh of relief. Suche, as long as you're okay, I'd do anything for you. Suche smiled. He pulled her into his arms. 6. Shen Mingjun is back to bother me again, she really is persistent. Xingxia, it's my birthday this Saturday, I'm inviting you to dinner, will you come? Suche leaned lazily against the doorframe, his gaze following her figure. I refuse, no time, I really don't have time. I have to attend English tutoring on weekends, exams are coming up. Suche blocked me at the door and wouldn't let me leave, in the height of summer, as friends, do you really have to go that far? I still don't want to talk to him. If you don't go, I'll take it as you still having feelings for me, that you're jealous of Mingjun. Provocation doesn't work on me. What does it matter what he thinks? Whatever you think. No matter what Suche says, I won't back down. He also has his limits. The words seemed to be squeezed out between clenched teeth. Fine, don't regret it, but I quickly changed my mind, because I actually did. I saw Shen Mingjun smoking. Actually, this didn't surprise me, because even if smokers are careful, they still carry the smell of smoke. I'm very sensitive to the smell of smoke. I had a vague suspicion that Shen Mingjun smoked. What surprised me was the person smoking with her. It was from a previous life, the bald guy who got me killed. Why would Shen Mingjun know such a scumbag? Isn't she a good student? Or, my death in a past life, was she involved too? I've convinced myself countless times, that was all from a previous life, it has nothing to do with me now. I'm about to go abroad, don't bother with these, but I feel a vague sense of unease. It was like in my previous life when my senior warned me to be careful of Shen Mingjun, and less than a week later, I was harmed. In this life, I've already distanced myself from Suche. Will Shen Mingjun still harm me? I dare not take the risk. It was Shen Mingjun's birthday, and I was the last to arrive. As soon as I got there, I started looking for someone. I couldn't find that bald guy. Of course, she definitely wouldn't let Suche know she was associated with such a small-time hoodlum. Shen Mingjun's birthday cake is almost taller than me. How could a poor student like her afford so much money? I know. This is the cake Suche ordered for her, because I had told Suche before. You must order a birthday cake taller than me for my 18th birthday. He shook his head and said, no, why? It's too childish, I don't like it. He didn't even let me finish speaking. He threw his jacket at me and went to play ball. Back then, I didn't feel the least bit bitter, holding his jacket. I only felt happiness, seeing Shen Mingjun's moved eyes now. I also feel it's quite childish. Suche, my birthday wish is you. A familiar wish. Suche pinched her cheek and said. Then you've wasted a birthday wish. I'm already yours. Shen Mingjun, is it not obvious enough for you to notice? This is Suche. Even in confessing, he has to take the lead. Shen Mingjun tiptoed and placed a kiss on the corner of Suche's lips, trying to pull back, but Suche held her. Is that even considered a kiss? Suche pulled her arm behind her back, bent down, and gave her a passionate French kiss. The classmates erupted in a chorus of teasing cheers. Shen Mingjun's face turned completely red. Suche took off his jacket and draped it over her. Someone teased, Che, are you being so stingy? Don't want us to watch. Suche glared at him. Do you have a problem with that? His gaze also fell upon me. The gaze was challenging. I raised my glass to him and said, happy birthday to your girlfriend. I turned and left. He smashed the wine glass. He kicked over the cake. It seems like he's having another episode. 7. My English exam is just around the corner. My mom decided to take me out of school for a week to focus on last-minute cramming at home. She also arranged for a senior student to tutor me. The senior was gentle and composed, never flustered, always with a smile on his lips. He was completely different from Suche. That day after school, I saw the senior off. Coincidentally, I ran into Suche returning from school. His deep gaze followed the student council president's retreating figure. With a backpack on, he remained silent. I tried to go home. Bypassing him, he grabbed the hood of my hoodie, pulled her into his embrace. Are you really that desperate? Can't survive a single day without a man. I lifted my foot and stomped hard on his right foot. He let go in pain. I ran, but he caught me again. Midsummer. Is this what you call liking me? He pinned me against the wall. He grabbed my chin. Who gave you permission to smile at another man? Who is he? How far have you two gone? Does he know you like me? I slapped him. Suche fell silent. He lowered his eyes and quietly looked at me. I too remained silent. We stood in a stalemate of silence. he let go of my hand, looked away, and said, I didn't mean what I just said, don't overthink it. I straightened my hoodie, which he had messed up. I left, he grabbed me, then quickly let go, saying, when did we get to the point where we can't even talk to each other? Midsummer, we're still good friends, right? He seemed to be seeking confirmation of something, very urgent. I let out a long sigh and said, no, Suche, you're not worthy of being my friend. 8. On the day of my exam, Suche called me over and over again. My mom said that Suche's mom fought back and almost stabbed Suche's dad to death. If Suche hadn't rushed home in time, he might have lost both his parents on the same day. His illness is getting worse, life has returned to its previous normalcy, skipping class, fighting, causing trouble, and constantly changing girlfriends, that phrase you said to me. You're too well behaved. In the end, it came back to haunt Shen Mingzhen. That day, Suche got into a fight with someone from another school, all for some girl he didn't even know. Shen Mingzhen came to me, crying and begging, Xingxia, please help Suche, he only listens to you, you've got it backwards, isn't he the one who only listens to you? Shen Mingzhen couldn't persuade me, so she had to drag me over. I've never seen such a ruthless Suche before. He was beaten bloody, he almost shoved the cigarette butt into that guy's eye. The girl standing nearby was so scared she started crying, pleading with him, Suche, stop fighting, I'm not angry anymore, Suche. Suche said he didn't like the obedient ones. The girls I found were all getting sweeter and sweeter. Shen Mingzhen rushed forward and said, Suche, Summer is here, are you going to fight in front of her? Suche was stunned, he looked at me. It was that split second of distraction. Someone picked up the knife from the ground and charged at him. Suche, Shen Mingzhen rushed over, the knife cut her wrist, and a lot of blood flowed out. The girl was so scared that she ran away, seeing the blood. The others also fled in fear, only Suche was panicked, holding Shen Mingzhen, and said, Mingzhen, Mingzhen. Shen Mingzhen hugged him, her face pale, and said, as long as you're okay, Suche, I'd do anything for you. I thought they were both acting in a soap opera, so I kindly called an ambulance for them. After doing a good deed, I turned and left. Suche called out to me, who told you to bring Mingzhen here? Me, bring him here, is he deaf? Or have I lost my memory? Mingzhen has always been very timid, don't you know? Here we go again, they're acting out a drama, and they have to drag me into it as the evil female antagonist. Fine, anyway, I'm going abroad. Today, I'll play my part as the wicked female antagonist. I walked straight towards Shen Mingzhen. Xingxia, what are you doing? I pulled Shen Mingzhen out of Suche's embrace. It hurt her wound. She cried even harder. I leaned in, bent down, and reached into her pocket, pulled out a pack of cigarettes. A lighter, thrown to the ground. Is this the good girl you like? Cowardly. Do you know that guy who just beat you up is her sworn brother who smokes together? Seeing the cigarette box on the ground, Suche also froze. Shen Mingzhen kept shaking her head, saying, no, Suche, it's not like that, they forced it on me. They were afraid of getting caught smoking by the teacher, so they forced it on me. Shen Mingzhen's lies. Suche loved to listen. I don't want to hear it. I walked away with my hands in my pockets, leaving them in a mess. 9. Judging by the situation, Suche must have believed Shen Mingzhen's words, because he gave a stern talking to the school's few big bullies. He warned them, they were not allowed to have Shen Mingzhen hide their cigarettes for them. She is clean, unlike that bunch of trash. I suddenly remembered that in my first year at school, these bullies came to me for protection money when they found out my family was wealthy. I turned to Suche for help. He was gaming, headphones still on, when he raised an eyebrow and asked, what did you say? I'm getting annoyed. I yanked off his headphones. He made a mistake and died. The screen went dark, and he threw the keyboard aside, saying, Xingxia, are you looking for trouble? Suche, I was bullied. Seeing my red, tear-filled eyes, he was momentarily stunned. Picking up the cigarette from the table, he took a hard drag and asked, who did this? I explained the whole situation to him. Clinging to fantasies, he would step up to protect me, again and again, just like he did when we were kids, but all he did was smirk and start another game, put on headphones and casually said, I thought it was a big deal. Anyway, your family is so rich, just give it to them. Number 3, don't rush forward, come back. Then, he played games all afternoon and really didn't bother with me anymore. Later, my dad came to pick me up from school himself. His imposing stature intimidated those tough girls, and they stopped bothering me. But because of that, I was mocked by my classmates as a tattletale. I was still ostracized by them. Logically speaking, I should have given up back then, but I didn't. I always remembered the kindness Suche once showed me. I had asthma as a child, and no other kids wanted to play with me. Their parents told them I was sickly, and if I had an attack, it could cause trouble for them. Only Suche was willing to play with me. When someone bullied me, he would bully them back for me. When I had a seizure, he never ran away. He found medicine for me and carried me to the hospital. His birthday wish once was, I hope every summer remains. Since Suche fell ill, he has changed, becoming irritable, paranoid, sensitive, and suspicious. The clear-minded boy who once accompanied me is gradually being killed by his own violence. I always tell myself, Suche is sick, but he will get better. I want to walk through this with him, just as he once walked me through my darkest days. But now, I don't feel that way anymore. I can't keep going, Suche, the rest of the way. You walk it yourself. 10. Big sister won't let Shin Mingjin off the hook. They trapped her in the women's restroom, just like they did to me back then. That day, as my parents were away on a business trip, I could only cry and call Suche. I called over and over again. My phone died from being overused. He didn't pick up either. Suche didn't come to school. I went to his house, pulled back his blanket, and asked where he had been last night. He rubbed his sleepy eyes and said, surfing the web. Huh, what? Are you checking up on me? Why didn't you answer the phone? Did you call me? He shook his phone and said, I was on the phone with my girlfriend. It died from being out of battery, so I didn't get to you. Shin Ming was indeed much luckier, because I saved her. It wasn't about being overly compassionate. I simply didn't want the despair I experienced to befall another girl. Shin Mingjin is innocent. She was just liked by Suche. She didn't do anything wrong. Suche is the one who always made mistakes, and the me who used to be such a jerk. When I opened the bathroom door, Shin Mingjin kept calling Suche. Seeing me, she was startled. Why are you here? Did Suche send you here? I glanced at her phone and noticed she had been calling Suche repeatedly. Why didn't you contact your parents? She lowered her head and stammered. I don't want to worry them. I see. It's a rush of love. I shook my head, declining to comment. The next morning, I went to school, and my desk mate pulled me over. Hey, you know, Suche is at it again. His madness is no longer the norm, and I keep watching coldly from the sidelines. It has already changed my desk mate's attitude. She used to think I was involved, but now she sees me as just another bystander like herself. I heard that Shin Mingjin was locked up by those older girls for a whole night, got a fever, and was hospitalized. Suche went crazy. This must be the first time he's ever hit a woman, right? It's strange, though. Are those people insane? How dare they mess with Suche's girlfriend, locked up for a whole night? Yeah, the cleaning found her in the morning and just sent her to the hospital. But, didn't I save her? I was just thinking when I realized how much quieter it had become around me. I looked up and saw Suche enter. He tapped my desk with his index finger and said, come with me. Is there something you need? I don't want to take orders from him. Suche laughed in anger and said, Xingxia. Are you sure you want me to say this here? I retorted, what can't be said? Suche shook his head in anger, his tongue pressing against the right side of his cheek, restless. Fine, as you wish, Xingxia. I ask you, you were right outside the bathroom yesterday, and Mingjin kept pleading for help. Why didn't you save her? As soon as he finished speaking, I feel the atmosphere around me has changed. My desk mate, who just treated me like a bystander, immediately distanced himself from me. I laughed and asked, did Shin Mingjin tell you this? I asked you to explain, not to ask questions. I'm tired of this too. I take back what I said about Shin Mingjin being innocent. Of course, someone who could fall in love with an idiot like Suche is an idiot themselves. He's not exactly normal. Sure, my explanation is, I let her out at the time, and as for why she went back in, I don't know and I don't care. Xingxia. Do you think I'm stupid, Suche? Believe it or not, it's up to you. I can't be bothered to argue with him. He grabbed me and said, come to the hospital with me. What for? Apologize to Mingjin. Apologize, my ass. I'm completely fed up. Over and over again. They might as well be deaf. This time, I lost my mind first. I kicked over the table and the chairs. I even tried to kick Suche away. Oh, I'm not strong enough, so he didn't get kicked away. But he also let go of my hand that was holding me back. What's wrong with you? You're the one acting crazy. Suche, all in all, we've known each other for 19 years. Even if I once had bad taste and liked you, excluding that, we were at least friends, 19 years of friends, and you don't even know what kind of person I really am." I was so angry I couldn't speak coherently. I rambled on and on. In the end, there was only one sentence left. "Suche, if I could do it all over again, I would rather die being bullied than be friends with you." 11. Suche's face was very bad, but he still grabbed me and said, "Let's talk about our business later. Right now, come with me to the hospital and apologize to Mengzhen." "Apologize to her? What about you? Are you going to apologize to me? Didn't I tell you to talk about our business later?" I pulled my hand away from his again. "It's not too late, Suche, now you're playing the hero, but where were you when they bullied me and locked me in the bathroom? Do you remember what you said to me back then?" Suche was stunned. "When were you locked in the bathroom by them?" "It was the night you were up all night surfing the web and talking on the phone with your girlfriend." "Oh, no, I forgot. You've had so many nights like that, you probably can't even remember which one it was now. But I remember, Suche, I will never forget. I spent the whole night in the bathroom, cold, dark, and scared, and your phone was unreachable the entire time. When my phone ran out of battery, I was so desperate. Do you think I would let another girl go through that kind of despair? Is that what you think of me, as such a wicked woman?" I didn't get to hear Suche's response, because the teacher came in. "Let's return to our seats, get ready for class, and no loud talking." Suche just threw me a quick line. "I'm going to the hospital to be with Mengzhen. What you said, I'll investigate it thoroughly. If they really bullied you, I won't let them off. But if not, you must apologize to Mengzhen." He ran away. The teacher couldn't do anything about him, so she took her frustration out on me. I packed up and ran away too. Anyway, I passed all my exams. What's the point of even studying anymore? Suche has been laying low for a few days. Shen Mingzhen has been constantly messaging me. "Xingxia, I don't blame you, asshole." I replied with 2 words and blocked her. On the day I left, my mom still called Suche over for dinner. Suche arrived. He remained silent throughout the meal, until my mom said, "Let's toast. Once you go abroad, you two won't be able to see each other often." Suche's glass shattered on the ground. My mom was startled and called the aunt to come clean. Suche stared straight at me and asked, "Are you going abroad? When did this happen? How come I didn't know?" I ate a piece of spare ribs and ignored him. Seeing that I ignored him, he stopped talking too. After dinner, he simply refused to leave. He kept hanging around at my place, wherever I go. He goes, "Xingxia, speak up. When are you leaving? Why didn't you tell me?" The doorbell rang. It's the senior. He brought a cake to celebrate my successful exam. Seeing Suche, he was startled and asked, "Your classmate?" I took the cake. "Strawberry. How did you know I love strawberry cake the most?" Suche chuckled lightly. "Liar, you clearly love chocolate cake the most." The senior felt a bit awkward. I said coldly, "People's tastes always change. Haven't you changed too?" "What do you mean I've changed? Aren't you the one who doesn't like the obedient ones?" Suche didn't dare to meet my eyes and lowered his head. I called the senior in, cutting the cake, drinking juice, and chatting. Suche finally couldn't stand it and said, "I've investigated the matter you mentioned. I've forced them to drop out. Xingxia, I was wrong before, and I apologize to you. It doesn't matter anymore." I ate a strawberry and said, "It's all in the past, Suche. I don't care about these things anymore." I said it with a light-hearted attitude, but Suche's reaction was intense. "Don't care, Xingxia, how can you not care? What's there to care about?" I pulled my hand away. "Who hasn't fallen for a few jerks in their life? Suche, you're already a thing of the past for me. What about him?" He pointed at the innocent senior beside him. "Is he your present?" "Him? Seriously?" The senior adjusted his glasses and said, "Don't get the wrong idea. I have a girlfriend, Ayan Xingxia." "Shut up. Her name isn't something you're worthy to call." The senior remained silent for a moment. He stood up. "Xingxia, I'm leaving first. See you at our school." "Okay, senior." "Sorry, he's out of his mind. You don't need to pay attention to him." See the senior off. Suche is acting crazy again. "What do you mean, see you at school?" "Xingxia, you went abroad for him. Didn't you hear he already has a girlfriend? Do you really like him that much?" So eager to be the other woman, I waited for him to finish venting. I remained silent the entire time. I waited until he was done. I calmly asked, "Suche, are you jealous? Jealous of him, me?" "It's not jealousy, just shut up and respect me, and respect my senior. Not everyone thinks about relationships like you do. Can't you think of anything without bringing love into it? Are you that desperate for affection? Suche was stunned. A ringtone interrupted our standoff. It's Shin Mingzhen at the hospital. She says she had a nightmare, is scared, and wants to see Suche. Suche looked at me and said, "Don't be afraid. I'll be back soon, Xingxia. Let's talk about our issues when I get back. In any case, you're not allowed to go abroad, and even more so, you're not allowed to see that stupid senior." 12. There's nothing left to say, because, I'm leaving now. On the day I left, Suche didn't come to see me off. He had to accompany Shin Mingzhen for a follow-up check. I don't know either. What's the point of a follow-up for being locked in a bathroom, especially if you locked yourself in? I was lost in thought in the car. I heard the driver say to me, "Miss, it seems someone is chasing the car." I turned around to look. I saw a small black dot far in the distance, getting closer, then moving away. I recognized him. It's Suche, chasing the car. Is this your way of acting out a romance drama with me? I turned back and told the driver, "Speed up, and I'll double your bonus." Whoosh, I almost fell out. I turned back again, but this time, not even a speck was visible. Do you see it, Suche? Life isn't a teenage idol drama. This is the gap between you and me, and from now on, it will only get further away. Arrived at the airport, I was afraid Suche would catch up. I went through security, customs, and found my way to the first-class lounge as quickly as possible. My heart settled. Midsummer. I opened my eyes and was startled. It's okay, it's okay. It's the senior. It's not Suche. Why do you look at me as if you've seen a ghost? I waved my hand and said, "Are you going over today too?" "Yeah. My girlfriend has been nagging to see me. If I don't go back, who knows what she'll do." The senior's expression showed a hint of helplessness, but more than that, it was indulgence. I smiled. I heard my name being called over the intercom. "Ms. Xingxia, on flight XXXXXX, please proceed to security gate 1. Your friend is waiting for you." "Ms. Xingxia, on flight XXXXXX, please proceed to security gate 1. Your friend is waiting for you, looking for you." The senior seemed slightly puzzled. I put on my headphones. It's not me. It's not me. This awkward situation has nothing to do with me. My senior took off my headphones. The voice on the broadcast, "It has been replaced by Suche. This is the benefit of having money power." "Midsummer. It's Suche. It was my mistake. You win. My life can't be without you. Please, don't leave. Don't leave me alone." I put my headphones back on. Such an awkward pursuit of love. I don't want to hear a single word. After boarding the plane, Suche kept calling me. He even took a photo of the rooftop for me. "If you dare to leave, I'll jump off from here." My choice, it was to shut down the device directly. A worthless parasite clinging to others for survival, simply doesn't deserve to live. 13. After arriving at school, I changed my phone number. I quickly forgot about Suche. Sometimes, I also hear my mom talk about his current situation. I heard his parents got divorced. He didn't get into college. He started dating Shin Mingzhen. They broke up again, on and off, always causing a ruckus. He comes to our house when he's drunk, says nothing, sits there all day. I told my mom, maybe we should move. My mom said, "Your dad and I were just thinking the same thing. This kid is way too extreme, and we don't want to be targeted by him." See, only popular in novels are those crazy characters. Bring it into reality. Who isn't afraid? My life abroad is very fulfilling. I've learned a lot, made a lot of friends. Opened the door to a whole new world. That Christmas, Suche came to see me. At that time, my then boyfriend was standing by my side. It's been so long. Suche has changed a bit. The once clear youthful spirit is now completely gone. He cut his hair short. He's thinner than before. He rarely smiles or speaks. He just quietly watched our hands intertwined. He didn't come over to talk to me. I pretended not to know him. I kept chatting with my boyfriend. I arrived downstairs. My boyfriend leaned in to kiss me. Suche charged up and punched him away. My boyfriend isn't one to back down. He punched back. They got into a scuffle. My boyfriend asked me, "Xingxia, is this your suitor?" "I don't know them. Probably drunk." Later, it was me who took my boyfriend upstairs to apply the medicine. Suche lay in the snow. "Xingxia, I regret it." The snow drowned out his voice. I can't hear anything. The end. Extra content. My mom told me, "Let me be careful, because Suche is also going abroad to find me. I'm anxious and uneasy at school. I'm afraid he'll come to me again for an idol drama, soon." My mom called me. "The crisis is over. He can't come to find you for now." My mom told me, Suche's ex-girlfriend, Shin Mingzhen, owes a large sum of money, can't pay. She told the creditor that her boyfriend is very rich, go find him. The creditor, that bald guy from before. I quickly pieced things together. In my previous life, she must have said the same thing to the bald guy. The bald guy initially just wanted money from me. Later, he was captivated by her beauty. In short, Suche was hot-tempered. He got into a fight with them, partially crippled. A life was lost, his entire life. It's completely ruined. As for Shenmingjin, she was the first news story I reported after returning to the country, a victim of beauty loans. The moment she saw me, she broke down and cried. She laughed and cried at the same time. It was said that the next day, she took pills and committed suicide. Thank her, sent me 2 viral hits. I became an overnight sensation, dubbed a genius in the industry. I saw Suche again. It was at my wedding. He showed up uninvited. He was in a wheelchair. He looks much more haggard. Don't even mention youthful vigor. This time, even the spirit is gone. He gave me a substantial amount of money as a gift. I donated the money to girls in the mountains. There's another envelope. Inside the envelope, there's a grass-woven ring. I saw the ring and threw it away. That was when I was playing house as a kid. He once made a grass ring. He proposed to me, midsummer. Will you marry me when we grow up? I do. Side story complete. Story 2. Only after my genius ex-boyfriend passed away did I realize he had been suffering from severe depression all along. I received a letter covered in incomprehensible mathematical formulas and 4 words, for Mengyao, returning to 4 years ago. This time it's my turn to find the solution to the problem and dedicate it to him. Preface. News broke that the youngest Fields Medal winner died from depression. The person in the photo had overlapping old and new scars on their wrist, staining the entire pool with blood. The report stated, he has been suffering from severe depression for the past 4 years. I simply couldn't believe that such a heaven-favored prodigy could fall to such a state. I was so heartbroken that I fainted, dreaming of high school days in my half-asleep state. Yet another ultimate mathematical challenge was effortlessly solved by Lu Ye's pen, and I murmured in admiration, Lu Yi, what kind of problem in this world would you consider difficult? Lu Yi gazed ahead silently for 2 seconds. Life. I teased him with a laugh. God Lu, your Chinese failed there. Life is a noun. Not a problem. At that time, I didn't understand what those 2 words truly meant to him. 4 years ago, that was the year we broke up. 1. I woke up to find myself lying on a classroom desk. Beside me, a pair of pale fingers held a pen, writing with fluid grace. I dazedly raised my gaze and saw a profile full of youthful handsomeness. Lu Yi. The hand paused as he stopped writing and glanced sideways at me. Before my brain could fully wake up, I had already recklessly thrown myself forward to hug him. Lu Yi, there are so many things I want to say, but I'm choked with tears. He froze for a few seconds before moving. I thought he was going to struggle, so I instinctively held him tighter. Then I felt a pair of hands gently patting my back, as if to comfort me. What's wrong? I froze for a moment, then cried even louder. Just as I wished I could crush Lu Yi into my embrace, a sudden cough exploded like thunder above my head. Ahem, ahem. Ahem, my sobs immediately choked off as my body went rigid. Lu also noticed my stiffness, and the hand on my back changed to give 2 light pats. He explained calmly, class is starting. See, lass, is, starting. While I was still pondering the meaning of these words, another thunderclap suddenly sounded above my head. Class started 10 minutes ago. The physics teacher's familiar yet unfamiliar gruff voice was right beside my ear. You too, come with me to the office, too. I stood in front of Teacher Gao's desk, tactically bowing in apology first. I'm sorry, teacher, I was wrong. I just had a nightmare. Teacher Gao looked rather speechless. All right, stand properly and speak while looking up. I stood up, raised my head, and heard old Gao gasp in shock. Ahem, well, how about this? You go home and rest today, and we'll talk about anything else tomorrow. I couldn't have asked for more. Grabbing Lu Yi, who was standing nearby, I said, thank you. Teacher, goodbye then. Before I could turn around, I saw old Gao glaring at my hand with wide eyes. Guiltily, I withdrew my hand from Lu Yi's grasp, let out an awkward laugh, and pushed him out the door. On our way back to the classroom, before I could speak, Lu Yi suddenly stopped in his tracks. Wait here for me. I was puzzled and looked at him in confusion. His gaze swept across my face. Your eyes are swollen. Remembering how my eyes puff up like walnut shells whenever I cry. I quickly covered them with my hands. Through the gaps between my fingers, I saw Lu Yi enter the men's restroom nearby. emerging moments later with a neatly folded handkerchief in his hand. He handed me the dampened, cool handkerchief. "This will feel more comfortable if you apply it." I took the handkerchief and thanked him, then heard him say, "I'll go get your school bag for you." I stood rooted to the spot, staring blankly at his retreating figure as my eyes grew moist again. Louis, who's always so gentle, why on earth would someone like him suffer from depression? 3. I spent the whole night researching, trying to understand what depression feels like: oppression, loss of interest, insomnia, helplessness, despair. Every description I read stabs at my heart, yet in my eyes, none of these seemed to have anything to do with Louis. Since entering school, Louis had always been out of sync with everyone else. He began participating in national and international math competitions at age 6, never once defeated, and had been known as a child prodigy since childhood. By his first year of high school, he had already received invitations from top universities like Stanford and Princeton, frequently attending academic conferences we couldn't even begin to understand. He carries too many halos, isolating everyone around him, as everyone at school describes. Louis is like an exiled immortal untouched by worldly affairs, hence the nickname God Lou. The only reason I have any connection with this deity is because I was fortunate enough to be his deskmate since freshman year. I had a crush on him, but only mustered the courage to actually speak to him in the second semester of freshman year. Even after getting together with him, I could only talk to him more. We never even held hands. If I had to describe our relationship in one word, it would be platonic. The only time either of us overstepped boundaries was during the breakup. I've always looked up to him, so I never knew. When I rushed into his arms crying in class, it turned out he would hold me instead of pushing me away. 4. The next day at school, my eyes were even more swollen. Old Gao was startled. "You little girl, don't tell me you're heartbroken." My dad and Old Gao were high school classmates, so we're quite close in private. "Stop teasing me, I'm not dating anyone." "How could I be heartbroken?" Old Gao burst into laughter. "It's adolescence. Teachers understand, especially since Lou is so outstanding." My heart skipped a beat as Old Gao suddenly changed the subject. "But, main girl, did you know Louis has already been accepted early by Princeton?" Of course I knew. In my past life, Louis went to Princeton for college. As for me, no matter how hard I tried, I only got into a top domestic university, worlds apart from Princeton. So, main girl, if you really start dating early, you're in for some hard times. I walked out of Old Gao's office clenching my fists. Damn it, Old Gao actually thought I had a secret crush and hinted that this relationship wouldn't work out. Little did he know, following last life's timeline, I'd be together with Louis in just 2 months. Right now, I'm indeed not together with Louis yet, but that's just a matter of time. I curved my lips and returned to the classroom. Lying on the desk staring blankly at the empty seat beside me, Louis doesn't need to take the college entrance exam, and can often skip school. Sigh, such are the privileges of genius. During the second class break, just as I was regretting forgetting to ask Louis for his contact information yesterday, my best friend came knocking. "Yao Yao," Yuan Wan darted in front of me, leaning down without bothering to lower her voice. "Yao Yao, I heard you forcibly hugged God Lu." My eyes widened in shock as I immediately raised my hand to cover her mouth, never expecting her to grab my wrist instead. "Don't get worked up, don't get worked up," I desperately signaled her with my eyes. "Don't talk nonsense, Yuan Wan, that idiot." Completely misunderstood, she leaned close to my ear and asked excitedly, "Did you confess to God Lu?" I met Lu Yicheng's clear gaze behind Yuan Wan. Quick question, would sacrificing my best friend work in this situation? 5. I wonder if Lu heard it or not. I pretended nothing had happened and greeted him, but he just nodded indifferently, as if he wasn't the one who had taken me home yesterday. Many times in the past, I was intimidated by his coldness like this, but this time, when it came to the afternoon PE class, I pulled him towards the small grove behind the sports field. "Lu Yi, I have something to tell you." On the way, I remembered the day in my past life when Lu Yi and I confirmed our relationship. That evening during class self-study, I was just turning to ask Lu Yi for help with a difficult math problem. Just as Lu Yi turned his head and leaned close to me, the entire teaching building suddenly lost power. The whole class fell silent for a moment, then erupted into chaotic uproar, with many people excitedly pounding their desks and shouting. The desk behind me knocked against my chair, making me stagger sideways, only to be steadied by Lu Yi. In the darkness, I lifted my head, and my lips brushed against his cheek. The hand supporting my arm stiffened slightly, and amidst the surrounding clamor, all I could hear was the pounding of my own heartbeat. As if possessed, I said, "Lu Yi, let's be together." Only after speaking did I realize what I had just said. Flushing crimson, I tried to pull away and cover it with a joke. But Lu Yi held me firmly in place. He said, "Okay, I don't know when Lu Yi started liking me, but I know I couldn't forget about him for the next 4 years. Once you've liked Lu Yi, you can never like anyone else again." I stopped under a big tree in a deserted corner and turned to ask him, "Did you hear Yuanwan's last words?" Lu Yi nodded. If what she said was true, would you agree?" Lu Yi looked at me and remained silent for a moment, then spoke in a very solemn tone, "I will." I suddenly let out a sigh of relief and smiled. "Lu Yi, let's be together." 6. After he recovered, my eyes inexplicably welled up with tears again. "Lu Yi, I had a nightmare last night." Remembering the image of him lying cold in the bathtub in my past life, I couldn't help but hold his hand to draw warmth. I dreamed that a very close friend of mine was seriously ill but didn't tell me, and left on their own. In a voice almost pleading, I asked cautiously, "Lu Yi, if you ever get sick in the future, you must tell me." "Okay." Lu Yi paused for a moment, but answered without hesitation, "Okay." I wanted to relax and smile, but the corners of my lips trembled instead. "Cold." He was about to take off his school jacket when I raised my hand to stop him. I shook my head. "Not cold, but my eyes hurt a little. Could you blow on them for me?" I tilted my head up toward him, eyes open and smiling as I waited for him to act. Lu Yi blinked, behaving uncharacteristically obedient. The moment he slightly lowered his head, I stood on tiptoe and pressed a kiss to his lips. Our first kiss across 2 lifetimes, brief as a touch, gone in an instant. See, this is a girlfriend's privilege. Watching Lu Yi's dazed expression, I felt quite pleased. Just as I was about to pull away, Lu Yi suddenly lifted his eyelids and wrapped his arm around my waist. Seen up close, his eyes were more dazzling than the cosmic galaxy. Power is mutual. After speaking, he lowered his head and gave me an awkward yet deep kiss. 7. I noticed that Lu Yi at this time seemed somewhat different from the Lu Yi I knew later. In our past life together, Lu Yi had almost never taken the initiative between us. Many times, I would speak at length without getting any response from him, only to look up and find him staring blankly into space. After staring at him in frustration for a while, he would finally snap out of it, and I'd ask him, "Were you thinking about math problems again just now?" Then Lu would sincerely say to me, "Meng Yao, I'm sorry, I was with him for 4 months, and the phrase he said to me most often was, 'Meng Yao, I'm sorry.' At that time, I didn't know about the existence of depression. I truly felt he had wronged me. He clearly promised to be with me, yet he would spend entire days lost in his own world, not even glancing at me. When I had a cold and fever, even the teacher could see how miserable I was. Yet he remained immersed in mathematics. When I was sad about my declining grades, he wasn't at school but shining brightly at some mathematics academic forum. Even on my 18th birthday, after reminding him multiple times daily for half a month, he still stood me up on the day. It's just that I'm not the type to demand or make a scene. I tried to swallow all my grievances, never expecting it would only leave me with a lump in my throat. But the current Lu Yi would care about my swollen eyes from crying, would ask if I'm cold, would kiss me, even if he couldn't do these things. I'm now firm enough not to mind at all, yet I'm still so grateful that I came 2 months earlier. Perhaps his depression was still relatively mild at this time, maybe in a safe period of depression, or perhaps he hadn't developed depression yet I couldn't help but realize something must have happened to Lu Yi during these 2 months. 8. I began to pay close attention to Lu Yi's daily condition. What struck me most profoundly was undoubtedly the watch on his left wrist. I remember clearly in the photo, beneath that very watch, lay terrifyingly dense scars. Seizing the moment when Lu Yi paused his writing, I boldly grabbed his left hand and fixed my gaze on that watch. Upon closer inspection, I realized something was off about this watch. This isn't a watch you can buy on the market, it looks more like it was handmade. Its movement is completely occupied by 5 gears of varying sizes, while the remaining gaps on the dial are filled with densely packed, spike-like fragments of unknown material. There doesn't seem to be anything particularly special about it, yet it gives me an extremely uncomfortable feeling, making my chest feel heavy just by looking at it. I examined it carefully and pretended to ask Lu Yi out of curiosity. "Lu Yi, where did you buy this watch? It's so unique." "My mom's." I froze. "Your mom?" "Yeah, she's a mechanical engineer, so it was made by his mother." I breathed a sigh of relief, but new questions arose. I heard Lou also came from a single-parent family. His mother was an elite woman who not only raised him but also had the means to buy an apartment in an upscale neighborhood and fund his overseas education. I saw her at a parent-teacher meeting. She had stylish, elegant wavy hair and features so delicate she looked like a refined lady from a Republican-era painting. But in his previous life, when Liu Yi committed suicide, all his personal connections were exposed. Even Lao Gao received media interview requests, yet among all this related information, there was no mention of his mother. I suppressed my emotions. That aunt is really impressive. I've never seen a handcrafted watch before. I'd love to try it on. May I? Liu Yi lowered his gaze to look at the watch, then said quietly, "My mom won't let me take it off." My heart clenched. He didn't want me to see what was hidden beneath this watch. 9. I knew exactly what this meant, but could only deflect with a laugh. Alright, I decided to take a risk. Liu Yi, can I come to your place for tutoring this weekend? Teach me math. Okay, I thought Liu Yi would refuse. But after a moment of consideration, he agreed. Alright, actually, I already knew Liu Yi's contact information and home address, but to avoid raising his suspicion, I asked for them again. I even put on a fierce act. First rule of dating, you must reply to your girlfriend's messages and calls. Got it? Okay. Also, you shouldn't hide things from your girlfriend. Tell her everything first. Okay, whatever I said. Liu Yi would always agree. He's so well behaved, it makes my heart itch. I glanced around the noisy classroom during break and crooked my finger at him. Come here. Liu also leaned in with confusion, and I cupped my hands over my mouth, moving closer to his ear. I gave his ear a little peck. Boyfriend, this is your reward. Seeing Liu's ears instantly flush red, I contentedly lay back down on the table. At that time, I almost drowned in the sweetness of love, optimistically thinking that misfortune could be erased in advance, until Saturday. I went to the psychiatric department of the hospital to consult a doctor about depression, and coincidentally saw Liu Yi coming out of the neighboring department. I stood still for a long time, and only after Liu Yi's figure completely disappeared from sight did I muster the courage to walk to the entrance of the department he had just exited. I looked up and saw the doctor's profile on the wall. Specializes in schizophrenia, depression, anxiety disorders. My heart instantly sank to the bottom. 10. In the afternoon, I went to Liu Yi's house. He was still wearing the same casual clothes he had on when going to the hospital this morning. Liu Yi, what were you doing all morning? As I observed Liu Yi's home, I casually asked him. Liu Yi bent down to help me put on slippers. Using other proofs to solve the Poincaré conjecture, I tightened my fingers around the backpack strap. Have you been at home all this time? Liu Yi paused before replying. Yeah. My heart was shrouded in gloom. But remembering the doctor's words this morning about how some depression patients exhibit social withdrawal, I mustered up some courage for myself. Liu Yi, were all these robots made by your mom? Liu Yi's home had the rare gray-blue color scheme, simply decorated, with many metal robots of varying sizes and shapes placed in the living room. Liu also went to the kitchen to pour me water. Yeah, she's at work today. I walked up to a robot that was as tall as a vase. Its head covered with a cardboard shell on the back. Curious, I tilted its head, and a blood-red clown-like grinning face suddenly came into view. Terrified, my face turned pale. Before Liu came out, I quickly restored the robot to its original state and stepped back to keep my distance. When I looked up again at the circle of robot figurines in the living room, I suddenly felt an eerie and horrifying sensation. Let's go. We're heading to the study, suppressing my palpitations. I followed Liu Yi into the study. There was nothing strange in the study, but as I pulled my chair close to sit beside Liu Yi, I still felt an indescribable unease. That bloody smiling face and Liu Yi kept alternating in my mind. Distracted, I had barely put down a few strokes when Liu Yi grasped the back of my hand. He frowned slightly, looking at me with concern. What's wrong? I could only lie. I had another nightmare last night. Liu Yi stared at me for a few seconds. Just when I thought he had seen through my lie, he suddenly raised his hand to cradle the back of my head, pulling me slightly closer, then placed a soothing light kiss at the corner of my lips. Feeling better now. 11. In that instant, I was utterly convinced that nothing couldn't be healed. I beamed and nodded emphatically. The study time passed swiftly. When the sun set behind the mountains, my mom called me home for dinner. I packed my things. Liu Yi, what are you having for dinner? He hesitated uncharacteristically when answering. There should still be dumplings in the fridge. I asked, puzzled. Isn't your mom coming back to cook? no, she's not coming back today. Being a single mom must be tough, and seeing Luyi grow up in such circumstances makes my heart ache for him even more. Suddenly, I made a big decision. Luyi, come to my place for dinner. I want you to see my home too. Luyi froze. Is that okay? Of course, I said without hesitation. Taking his hand, my parents are very hospitable, more than hospitable. They were practically excessively hospitable. I just brought Luyi inside and introduced him with one line. This is my deskmate, Luyi, Comrade Xiaoyang, this looks obsessed fellow. Quickly wiped away his drool and promptly dragged Luyi to the dining table. Oh my, you must be Xiao Lu. Come, Auntie just happened to make some delicious food. Comrade Lao Meng initially maintained a stern demeanor. But after seeing Comrade Xiaoyang and Luyi chatting back and forth, he couldn't resist butting in with some gossip. Are you that genius mathematician mentioned in the newspaper? Luyi replied in a very measured and unusually restrained manner. I dare not presume. Comrade Lao Meng waved his hand and piled a large portion of pork onto his plate. Good lad, eat more, eat more. At the table for four, I became the extra one, clutching my untouched bowl in confusion. I accidentally met Luyi's gaze peering through the vegetable dishes. For 2 lifetimes, this was the first time I saw Luyi smile. The feeling in that moment was, I'm willing to share my parents with him. 12. Doctors say that people with depression usually experience significant low mood. I've noticed that Luyi's mood seems normal recently, but I still dare not let my guard down. I became alert when Lu started skipping school frequently. I messaged him occasionally every day. And though he didn't always reply promptly, he would eventually respond with explanations. But after he didn't show up for a whole week, I started to feel panicked. I deliberately sent him a WeChat message at 3 a.m. I declare that mathematics is the enemy of my life. Angry, attached a picture of a complex math problem without much thought. I waited anxiously for 2 minutes. And unsurprisingly yet unexpectedly, Luyi's reply came. He sent a picture showing 3 different solutions to that math problem, each written neatly and in detail. I couldn't spare a glance. Luyi, why aren't you asleep yet? Doing problems. My hands began to tremble. Do you have insomnia? Yeah, my heart was pounding wildly, and it took me a long time to calm down before I could type. Then let me coax you to sleep. Okay, but before I could send it, I received another new message from Luyi. Even before seeing it, I somehow had a premonition. My gaze moved upward, seeing that sentence. Mengyao, I'm sorry. 13. Like a spell that opened Pandora's box, I was caught off guard by the misfortune that came my way. In a fluster, I made a voice call, trying to steady my voice. Luyi, why are you saying sorry to me? After a long silence, Luyi's weary voice came through. I don't know. As if subconsciously, he added another sentence. I'm sorry, I bit my lip. Luyi, there's no need to apologize. Insomnia is completely normal. Look at me today. I couldn't sleep either because of math problems. I tried to keep my tone light, but my words came out all jumbled. Insomnia is like a cold. When you're sick, you can always get better. I realized something, paused, and asked aloud, Luyi, have you been taking medication? Both insomnia and hypersomnia are common symptoms of depression. I remembered seeing Luyi at the hospital that day. Yeah, I suddenly calmed down. Then does listening to me talk make you uncomfortable? How about I keep you company and chat with you? Okay, I just held my phone and lay on the bed, starting to chatter away. Do you remember that idiot Yuan Wan? I told her the other day that I'm your girlfriend, and she didn't believe me, even said I was daydreaming. Luyi. Next time let's show off our love in front of her and make her eat her words. Okay. These past few days, my parents keep mentioning little Lu at home, saying a good cabbage got ruined by a pig. You wouldn't believe it, they actually said I'm the pig. Luyi, do you know why my parents don't object to me dating early? Without waiting for Luyi's reply, I continued on my own, because my dad and mom started dating early too. Haha. I heard that when my dad pursued my mom in senior year, it caused her grades to drop. Comrade Lao Meng still has to kneel on the washboard for that even now. Ha ha ha. I laughed heartily, yet tears had already silently soaked the pillow. I sniffled and said with a grin, Comrade Xiao Lu, come to my place for dinner in a couple of days. Alright. Luyi remained silent for a moment before replying, alright. I wiped my tears and continued to chatter cheerfully about other things. Even laughing twice when getting excited. I don't know how long I'd been talking, but my eyelids grew heavier and my voice fainter. Luyi hadn't made a sound for a long time. Thinking he'd fallen asleep, I could barely hold on either. beginning to drift off. In the end, I kept mumbling the same thing over and over. Lu Yi, it'll be okay, I'm here, it'll be okay. Before completely sinking into the chaotic haze, I faintly heard a sigh. He said, Meng Yao, don't cry, I can't kiss you. 14. I dreamed of the first day of high school when I first met Lu Yi. That day, Comrade Lao Meng insisted on driving me to school, but the navigation messed up and made me late. I heard the opening ceremony sounds from the playground and rushed to find my classroom to drop off my backpack first. Just as I ran to the classroom door, I collided head-on with a wall of flesh that nearly sent me flying. But fortunately that person caught me by the waist. I'm sorry. I stammered out apologies in a fluster, then looked up to see Lu Ye's breathtakingly handsome face. Later I rushed to the playground and saw him giving a speech as the freshman representative. Only then did I learn that his name was Lu Yi. Standing on the stage in formal attire, he appeared handsome and radiant, with striking features. While I remained hidden in the crowd, my heart skipped a beat. 90% of the girls in the entire school had a crush on Lu Yi. The crowd of girls trying to squeeze to our classroom door just to catch a glimpse of Lu Yi grew so large that they had to form a line, eventually forcing the school to send teachers to shoo them away. Taking advantage of the proximity, one girl from our class confessed her feelings to Lu Yi on the third day. At that moment, I was sitting right beside Lu Yi, watching as that girl handed him a love letter. Lu Yi politely expressed his thanks, but instead of accepting the love letter, he handed the girl a piece of paper in return. He said, if you can prove it. All the girls in the school were in an uproar. Solving the problem on it would mean being with Lu Yi. A wave of math problem solving swept through the campus, until someone looked it up on Baidu and everyone realized belatedly, that problem has a name, it's called the Riemann hypothesis. No girl dared to approach Lu Yi anymore. I quietly tucked away the white paper with the copied problem, sealing it inside my math textbook, then secretly swore eternal enmity with mathematics. 15. Woke up with a start from the dream. After hastily packing up, I asked the teacher for leave and took a taxi straight to Lu Ye's home. After hesitating at the door for a long time, I still couldn't rest easy and finally rang the doorbell. When the door opened and I saw Lu Yi standing there unharmed, I couldn't help but throw myself into his arms. Good morning, Lu Yi. Lu Yi clearly didn't expect my sudden appearance, but he still returned my embrace. Meng Yao. His voice sounded so weary. When I pulled away and saw the dark circles under his eyes, my heart ached. Let me stay with you. Okay. Lu Yi never refused any of my requests. He stepped aside and pulled me into the room. The air conditioning was on indoors, and I noticed he was wearing a turtleneck sweater. The combination felt somewhat incongruous to me. I placed the breakfast I brought on the dining table. My mom makes really delicious pumpkin porridge. Just as I finished setting the breakfast table with light movements, sudden footsteps came from the doorway, followed by the sound of a key turning in the lock. I froze, looking at Lu Yi. Lu grabbed my wrist, his voice deep. Meng Yao, my mom is back. Before I could understand the gravity of his expression, he urgently pulled me and shoved me into his bedroom. Wait here. Before closing the door, he said, don't open it. I stood dazedly behind the door, hearing the click-clack of high heels outside that suddenly stopped at a certain point. Muffled, fragmented speech began intermittently, and I only caught one clear sentence. Why don't you just die? Then came strange, indistinct metallic clanging sounds, accompanied by the noise of something heavy being dropped. Unable to obey, I instinctively swung the door wide open. First, I saw a slender figure standing by the dining table, seemingly twisting some wire in hand, and kneeling shirtless before her was Lu Yi. He knelt on the hard marble floor, head hanging like a lifeless puppet, his hair drenched in sticky fluid. It was that bowl of pumpkin porridge. My breath hitched, my foot barely making a tiny movement. Lu Yi suddenly raised his head and looked at me. He was looking at me with a look I could never forget in my lifetime, yet dare not recall for the rest of my days. He was begging me not to go out, begging me not to look. 16. With all my strength, I slowly closed the door, covering my mouth. I slid down against the wall, tilting my head back to hold back tears. Through the door, I heard the muffled sound of metal striking flesh, and the hate-filled words, it's all your fault, it's all your fault. At that moment, I truly hated myself. I hated my helplessness, hated my understanding of Lu Yi. Hated my past life. That was the longest and most painful time of my life, and the thought that this might just be an ordinary fragment of Lu Yi's decade-long life made me feel even more pained, until who knows how much later, when Lu Yi crouched in front of me, it still felt somewhat unreal. My vision was too blurred to see his face clearly, yet I could still somehow perceive his heartache. He was aching for me. Meng Yao, I'm sorry. He gently wiped away my tears with his fingertips. I didn't know she would come back today. I grasped his fingers, hastily wiping my tears to examine his body. There were no scars on his face, water droplets clung to his hair, and he had changed into a black shirt, clearly having cleaned up. I noticed his collar was awkwardly and unpleasantly raised high, and as I realized something, a sudden chill ran through my entire body. With trembling hands, I reached for his collar. My voice choked with tears. Lu Yi, this time. It was Lu Yi who grasped my fingers. He sighed, not good looking. I stared at him without speaking. Lu Yi reluctantly let go of his hand. When I saw the red marks on the fair skin, my hand trembled uncontrollably, yet I stubbornly examined that fresh scar over and over, along with the 2 older-looking rings beneath it that appeared recent. I finally understood. Lu Yi always wore high-necked sweaters when others were still in thin shirts, not because he feared the cold. Holding my breath, I lifted the hem of his shirt again. What I couldn't see clearly from a distance before, the crisscrossing scars covering Lu Yi's body now lay exposed before my eyes. I couldn't even bear to touch the wound with my hand, afraid it would hurt him. Why would his own mother? I choked up. Lu Yi, does it hurt? Lu Yi smiled at me. If you feel the pain for me, then I won't feel it anymore. 17. This is by far the longest speech Lu Yi has ever said to me. He told me about his mother. His father was abusive, and his mother left home with him when he was 1 year old. For a single mother, making a living in an unfamiliar city was as difficult as climbing to the sky. She survived by scavenging through trash piles during the day, teaching herself mechanical engineering from scrap metal. Life was hard, but his mother would rather go days without food or water just to give him a birthday with a cake. Exhausted as she was, she still took him to the park near their home every evening, never letting other children bully him. When he was 8 years old, perhaps because of a heavy rain, or maybe just a sneeze, his mother suddenly flew into a rage, accusing him of being the reason she became like this, blaming and resenting him. The next day when sober, she cried and begged for his forgiveness. Later, this cycle of resentment, scolding, and apologies repeated several times, escalating to beatings followed by apologies, until eventually she would experience memory loss and couldn't recall what she had done. Anxiety, mania, mild schizophrenia, selective amnesia. Meng Yao, she's just sick. Lu Yi comforted me with the words I once said to him, just like a cold, it can be cured. She hadn't had a relapse for a long time before this. I couldn't speak, opening my mouth several times. Does she know now? Once you wake up, you'll forget. Are you keeping it from her? She won't be able to handle it. What about you? I asked. Lu Yi, what will you do then? I can handle it. How can you handle it? Don't you realize you're sick yourself? She'll drag you into the abyss sooner or later. How I wish I could blurt it out without a care, but I can't. The doctor said if a depressed person still talks to others about their problems, it means the situation is somewhat optimistic, but I can't feel happy about it at all. I held Lu Yi's hand. Lu Yi, she needs to go to the hospital. I've been arranging doctors for her. No, she needs to go herself. She's too proud to accept this. That year, 17-year-old me didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. I said to him, Lu Yi, let's give it a try. After a long contemplation, Lu Yi chose to place immense trust in me. Alright, let's try. For many years afterward, whenever I recalled this conversation, I couldn't fall asleep. I've carried the guilt of those words for a lifetime. 18. Lu Yi's mother was admitted to the hospital on a day in early November. On the day she was taken to the hospital, I hid under a tree outside watching Lu Yi talk with her. She wasn't wearing makeup, her bare face pure and innocent like the most harmless angel, and I was utterly captivated. Bathed in the early autumn morning sunlight, she suddenly turned her head in my direction and gave me a gentle yet breathtaking smile. How strange, I found I couldn't bring myself to dislike her anymore. Lu Yi began shuttling between the hospital and school every day, saying his mother's condition was improving day by day, so both Lu Yi and I firmly believe that she will soon recover and be discharged from the hospital. Meanwhile, Lu Yi's condition has been improving day by day, with his depression gradually shifting from moderate to mild, now having minimal impact on him. Lu Yi said he doesn't plan to go abroad until his mother recovers, and he'll attend university domestically first. So my goal is to get into that top-tier domestic university he's aiming for. I studied like crazy, squeezing in time to date Lu Yi. on the night the teaching building lost power, I secretly kissed his cheek in the darkness. When the lights came back on, it felt like I could see countless bright lamps illuminating our future. Squinting my eyes, I asked a question I'd always wanted to ask. Lu Yi, why do you like me? Lu Yi was momentarily stunned. Then raised his pen to draw a coordinate axis on the paper. He dotted many irregular black points in the blank space, then drew a diagonal line through the middle. I was puzzled. A univariate linear regression equation. Lu Yi nodded, pointing at those scattered black dots. This is my existence. He pointed at that line again. This is your significance. Actually, I didn't understand, but it didn't stop me from giggling and immediately bragging to Yuan Wan. Yuan Wan looked at me like I was an idiot, who knew even geniuses could be so cheesy with their sweet talk. I huffed proudly, you just don't understand Lu Ye's romantic side. Not only did Yuan Wan laugh at me, but old Meng and comrade Xiao Yang also joined in mocking me. I often studied until dawn, and they'd joke that I was risking my life for romance. My parents may appear tolerant and open-minded, but I know perfectly well if my relationship ever interfered with my studies, no matter how wonderful Lu Yi was, they'd never approve again. Only by letting them see me improving will they believe this is a healthy relationship. Back then, I was full of confidence in myself and Lu Yi, completely forgetting that when Pandora closed the box, she left hope inside. 19. In the March of spring, only 101 days remain until the college entrance examination. The day before the anniversary of my breakup with Lu Yi in my past life, I sent him my usual morning greeting as always. At first, I didn't mind not receiving his reply, thinking he was too busy visiting his mother at the hospital. When he didn't come to school in the afternoon, I called him in confusion. Several unanswered calls made me start to worry, but it was my grandmother's birthday that day, and our family had agreed to gather at her place after I finished school in the evening. Undeniably, prolonged peace had dulled my alertness. I didn't go looking for Lu Yi right away. That night at 10 o'clock after returning from Grandma's house, as I watched those unanswered messages pile up one by one, I felt a terrifying palpitation. I waited until there was no movement outside and my parents had gone to rest before sneaking out of the house. Just as I tiptoed past the living room, my hand not yet on the doorknob, a deep voice suddenly came from behind. It's so late, where are you going? My heart stopped, and I turned around. The living room was unlit. Old Meng stood by the glass door connecting the balcony, the cigarette in his hand emitting a faint crimson glow. Old Meng usually fooled around at home, but when it came to matters of principle, he was more serious than anyone. Even through the darkness, I could sense the authority and solemnity emanating from him. I know lying is useless, so I can only selectively conceal the truth. I'm going to find Lu Yi. I clenched the hem of my clothes. Haven't been able to reach him all day. I'm a bit worried. Old Meng's tone was uncharacteristically cold. Then call the police. Finding people is the police's job, not something for you to worry about by going out at midnight. Old Meng knew me well. He could tell I was hiding something. Just as I knew him, I understood exactly how he would react upon learning the truth. He wouldn't accept it. I pleaded, Dad, when I was 18 and pursuing your mother, I never let her go out alone at night. He stubbed out his cigarette and walked toward me. Without a reason, you're not stepping through this door. I have no other choice. Lu also has depression. I was shamefully close to tears again. Dad, I'm sorry, but I have to go find him. I turned the doorknob, trying to make a quick escape, but he still grabbed my arm. We stood in silent confrontation for a few seconds before Old Meng released his grip. Put on your coat, I'll go with you. Dad has a car. 20, halfway through the drive, it started to rain. It began as a drizzling rain that gradually intensified, culminating in the roar of thunder. I remembered breaking up with Lu Yi in my previous life. It was on a rainy day just like this. We had made plans to have dinner together after school, but that day I waited from sunset until the moon hung high in the sky, yet Lu Yi never showed up. This wasn't the first time Lu Yi had stood me up. But the spring rain that day was unusually heavy, the night wind exceptionally cold, and for some reason, I felt particularly wronged. Lu Ye's indifference, broken promises, and calmness kept replaying in my mind. I walked home in the rain and developed a high fever that night. I texted Lu Yi to break up. Not receiving his reply left me utterly disappointed, further solidifying my resolve to break up with him. Lu Yi never showed up at school again after that. And I couldn't help but feel worried and suspicious. But one day a month later, he suddenly came to school and said those words, I'm sorry, to me again. I noticed he didn't look well, and my heart ached for a moment. only to hear his next words, "But I won't break up." His words were unusually domineering, and I couldn't understand how he could be so self-righteous. I said angrily, "Lu Yi, this isn't up to you." Lu Yi gripped my wrist tightly, his eyes rimmed red. He said, "Meng Yao, I will die." At that time, I failed to recognize it as his cry for help. I stared at him in shock, equating him with those obsessive freaks who threaten to die after a breakup. How could you be this kind of person? As I grew older, I regretted ever harboring such doubts about Lu Yi, but what's done is done, and I don't think Lu Yi, who was already renowned back then, would need an apology from me. By that time, I had become even more unworthy of him. I had only ever seen Lu Yi's glorious side, never realizing he was trapped in dire straits and had once seen me as his lifeline, and I, before he plunged into the abyss of eternal damnation, gave him one final push. Not finding anyone at Lu Yi's home, we drove to the hospital where his mother was. As we passed the park at the neighborhood entrance, a feeling came over me, and I got out of the car. Through the hazy curtain of rain, I saw Lu Yi curled up in the space beneath the slide. Like an unwanted child, I ran up to him, my trembling hands unsure where to place themselves. Lu Yi raised his head, his eyes hollow and empty. His voice remained as calm and faint as ever, but mingled with the sound of rain, it seemed fragmented and desolate. He said, "Meng Yao, I don't have a mother anymore." 21. Lu was also taken home, given the medicine prescribed by the doctor, and fell into a deep sleep. It was already the early hours of the morning. During the night, he began to run a high fever intermittently, murmuring unconsciously, "It's all my fault, it's all my fault." My heart ached unbearably, consumed by guilt I couldn't escape. I stayed awake all night watching. Lu Yi's fever broke, but he showed no signs of waking. Old Meng kept vigil outside the room all night, and at dawn he bought breakfast and came to call me. I sat across from him in a daze, faintly aware of what he was about to say. "I've asked for leave on your behalf." I froze, not expecting this opening line. "Today's your 100-day pledge rally for the college entrance exam. That old Gao is really stubborn. It took me quite some talking to get your leave approved." Sipping his porridge, he said calmly, "Kid, let's hear it. What are your plans?" I thought he would scold me, and I also thought he would make me break up with Lu Yi. I just didn't expect him to throw the initiative to me. I swallowed hard, my voice hoarse. "I want to stay with him." "For how long? Until he gets better?" He looked up at me. "Even if it takes months, or years." I met his gaze without flinching. "Or perhaps indefinitely." Old Meng's pupils contracted slightly. He averted his eyes and let out a light chuckle. "So what are your plans for the college entrance exam? Are you giving up on it?" At that time, I was actually just one step away from China's top universities, just needed to stretch a little further to reach it. With a pale face, I said, "I can study at home. I can study while he's asleep." But the doctor just mentioned the risk of suicide, asking us to strengthen supervision and raise awareness, preferably providing 24-hour monitoring. Do you know what that means? I silently lowered my head, then raised it again after a few seconds. "I can take a leave of absence from school, or I can repeat a year." Old Meng's eyes turned cold. I was afraid, but I spoke with absolute determination. "But I cannot give up on Lu Yi." Old Meng's voice also turned cold. "Then what do you expect your mother and me to do? How dare you assume we'd allow you to make such an absurd decision?" I hung my head in shame again. "Dad, I'm sorry. Please have some pity for Lu Yi. I'm your father, not his. You will be eventually." Old Meng laughed in frustration, got up from the dining table, and paced back and forth a few steps. "You're not sober right now. We'll talk when you're clear-headed." Old Meng made as if to leave, but I called out to stop him. "Dad, I'm completely sober now. I once asked you if you regretted pursuing Mom back then, causing her to miss getting into a top school. You said Mom might have regretted it, but you never did, though it may be shameful. There are always certain people or things in life that you would unwaveringly choose when faced with a decision. Dad, I'm sorry, Lu Yi is my unwavering choice." Old Meng paused behind the door back then. I don't know what he was thinking. He said, "If this is your decision, then I understand." 22. I'm fortunate to have such open-minded and rational parents. Since childhood, they never imposed any ideology or choices on me, but instead showed me respect in every way. I know how unfilial this is. But I saw Lu Yi staring blankly out the window, not saying a word, like a walking corpse. I've lost Lu Yi once before. I can't lose him again. I patted his head and called out to him. For half an hour, he showed no response. I stepped away for a moment to get some food, but he suddenly grabbed my hand again. It was a very light touch. I stopped and asked softly, "What's wrong?" Luya's gaze was unfocused. I asked again, "Do you want me to stay with you?" He didn't speak. But I just sat down beside him and never left again. I kept chattering to him about some funny things, and as I talked, Luyi fell asleep again. He began to become lethargic, vomiting after eating, and spent each day in a daze without speaking. On the third day, when I went out to pour hot water and returned, I found Luyi was unexpectedly not in bed. He sat at the study desk, holding a pen with his head bowed over a blank sheet of paper. For a moment I thought he had recovered, so I approached. "Luyi." Luyi looked up at me, his face blank with confusion. After several days, the first words he spoke to me were, "I think I've forgotten how to do math." The second sentence is, "I might be sick." The third sentence is, "Mengyao, do you still want me?" 23. I held Luyi, telling him over and over how much I needed him. He took his medicine and fell asleep again. I got a call from Lao Gao, who told me how spectacular this scene was on the 100 Days Pledge Day. He told me to take good care of myself and return to school soon. My parents haven't informed the school about my leave of absence yet, and I couldn't bring myself to say it either. They didn't pressure me, as if they had already accepted it, but deep down I don't want to give up either. While Luyi was asleep, I crouched in the living room studying on my own, thinking this way I could balance both. I had another nightmare about Luya's suicide from my past life. After waking up in panic, I rushed into the room but couldn't find Luyi. Breaking into a cold sweat, I barged into the bathroom and saw him lying in the bathtub. "This scene is too cruel." I cried and called his name over and over. He also cried, murmuring repeatedly, "I should just die. I should die. My heart is broken." 24. Since then, I haven't dared to leave Luya's side for a single step. I gathered all potentially harmful items in the house and locked them in other rooms. I sleep by Luya's bedside, needing to watch him fall asleep first before daring to close my eyes. If it weren't for my mom bringing us meals, sometimes I wouldn't even have time to eat. I'm so exhausted, but I can't let Luyi sense any of my negative emotions. Even with my parents, I put on a brave face in front of them, pretending I'm fine. I feel deeply depressed, but I've never thought of giving up. I used to think Luyi was someone who couldn't be measured by common standards. He possesses the most clear-headed and rational mind in the world, with terrifying emotional self-control. How incredibly strong must his willpower be, to remain virtuous for over a decade while his mother was ill, and even complete what's considered one of history's greatest mathematical researches while battling severe depression for 4 years. In the battle against depression, it was mostly him saving himself. My presence didn't seem that important. But that sudden storm made me suddenly realize my significance to Luyi. During the 100-day pledge ceremony before the college entrance exam in my past life, Teacher Gao had the whole class write their thoughts on slips of paper, put them in message bottles, and hand them to him, saying we could come claim them years later. What I wrote back then was, "The road is long, the journey far, though my heart yearns, no distance bars." Back then, I was still desperately trying to catch up with Luya's footsteps. This year I missed the 100-day pledge ceremony, so I found a small glass bottle at Luya's place and wrote a note myself. I wrote, "Mengyao is Luya's homecoming." After writing it, I put it in the glass bottle and boasted to the sleeping Luyi, "Luyi, I understand your confession now." I fell asleep leaning on his bedside, and in my drowsiness, I felt someone touching my face, so precious, so gentle. 25. A week later, something incredible happened. Luyi regained consciousness. He would get up to eat breakfast, take his medicine, and even say thank you to me. I held him close, nuzzling his face. "Luyi, it'll get better." When Lu got slightly better, I felt like I came back to life too. 2 days later in the afternoon, Comrade Xiaoyang came to deliver food, and I happily shared with her. Shortly after, she received a call. "What? Mom fell and was hospitalized." I stood there stunned, watching her hang up and rush off in a panic. Did something happen to Grandma? I was so worried I didn't know what to do, when Lu suddenly appeared behind me. For the first time, he took the initiative to ask me, "What's wrong?" I pulled myself together, and "No, it's nothing, let's eat." Luyi raised his hand to cup my face, pulling me close before his eyes. "Mengyao, I'll get better." He pressed his forehead against mine, his gaze seemingly regaining its vitality once more. "Believe me, all right, I believe." How could I not believe? I said joyfully. "I believe, I trust Luyi the most." Luyi planted a kiss on the corner of my lips. 26. In the evening, old Meng suddenly came by. Your grandmother was asking about you at the hospital. Don't you plan to visit her? Mom told me not to go this afternoon, but I've actually been worried about it the whole time. It's just. Lu must be asleep by now. I'll keep an eye on things. You go and come back quickly. I looked at Lu Ye's peaceful sleeping face and hesitated for a moment. Alright, Grandma is also my family. I can't help but worry. Besides, I have complete trust in old Meng. I didn't expect that when I rushed to the hospital, there was no one there at all. I called my mom, and she stammered, Yao Yao, I'm sorry. A chill ran down my spine as I turned and ran back to Lu Ye's house. Lu Ye was gone. Old Meng sat in the living room smoking, watching coldly as I frantically searched the house like a madman. Only when I had searched enough, lost hope, and collapsed helplessly on the ground, did he finally speak. He's gone. I looked at him with reddened eyes. To Princeton. I couldn't believe it, my voice hoarse with accusation. Dad, you're committing murder. The moment the words left my mouth, seeing old Meng's suddenly frosty expression, I immediately regretted it. He even helped handle the funeral arrangements for Lu Ye's mother. After all his indulgence towards me, how could I say such things to my own father? Completely flustered, I buried my face and sobbed, I'm sorry, I'm just so worried about Lu Ye. They'll find him the best psychologists in the world. For a genius like him, there are many people who'd want to save his life. Old Meng squatted in front of me and patted my head. Yao Yao, this was his own decision. 27. The powerlessness of adolescence seems to be just like this. You have boundless courage, fearless of dangers, but none of it can compare to a plane ticket in reality. Old Meng said, as long as I can get admitted, he would spend his last penny to send me to Princeton. To get into a top domestic university and secure an exchange spot at Princeton, you'd at least need to be a junior or senior, 3 or 4 years. Lu Ye, can you wait that long? Lu Ye asked me to trust him. I don't know where he gets his confidence from. I don't even believe in myself. That fool. What if I don't pass the exam? I used all the time I used to spend with Lu Ye to study, determined not to give any room for wild thoughts. On the day the college entrance exam ended, I thought I could pass, but I couldn't feel happy about it. Yuan dragged me to the graduation party and told me to invite Lu Ye out. None of them knew what Lu Ye was going through. They only thought he was still shining brightly somewhere not far away. I felt inexplicably sad. In this lifetime's graduation ceremony, Lu Ye was still missing from the photo. Starting over, I changed nothing. I fell into deep self-doubt and guilt, dreaming either of Lu Ye or his mother every day. In fact, I've always believed that I was responsible for Lu Ye's mother's death. I feel like I'm on the verge of depression. I lost my appetite, spoke less and less. Until a few days later when old Meng suggested taking me out to relax. I'm not really interested, but I don't want him to worry. The car stopped in front of the embassy, and I hadn't even realized it yet. Old Meng pulled me out of the car. Go, get your visa. I stared at him blankly, not understanding. Old Meng looked disdainful, pathetic. To be in such a state after just a few days. He pulled out a plane ticket. It was for New York. I'll buy this one for you in this lifetime. The next ticket. You earn it yourself. After saying it, he immediately regretted it. No, your father is poor. This money will have to be deducted from Lu Ye's future bride price. Old Meng muttered to himself. My eyes reddened as I threw myself into his arms. How fortunate I am to have the best father in the world. 28. The plane landed in New York, and Lu Ye's personal doctor's assistant came to pick me up. His name is Robert, and he tried to communicate with me in broken Mandarin. Hello. I'm here to act as a scarf driver for the doctor's main force assistant. At this moment, I can only feel grateful that I studied English well in college. The drive from New York to Princeton takes just over an hour. Perhaps it's the anxiety of nearing home. The closer we got, the more restless I felt, even missing several responses to Robert's words. He smiled and said, Patrick is doing fine, don't worry. He seems different from other patients. He attempted suicide once, but called for help at the last moment, which is very rare among depression patients. Maybe it's because he's a genius. You know, geniuses are always special. Lu Ye is no genius, he's just a big idiot. He left me without saying anything, making me travel thousands of miles just to find him. I could hardly resist the urge to scold him or even hit him, but seeing him standing dazed in the yard, all my anger melted away. I rushed over, braking at the last second, and reached out to cover his eyes from behind. I said in English, guess who? He froze, and after a long pause, replied hoarsely, Meng Yao. That's not right. Lu Yi gripped the back of my hand, his fingers trembling. Meng Yao. Helpless, I asked in Chinese, who is Meng Yao? It seemed like this was the only word he knew, yet he stubbornly repeated, Meng Yao. I released my grip and stepped in front of him, only then noticing his bloodshot eyes. Remember this, Meng Yao is your future wife. I grabbed his collar and said fiercely, if you dare die again, I'll become a widow. 29. Princeton started spreading legends about me. They say there's a Chinese girl who chased her love across oceans, all the way to Princeton. Doctors and nurses in the hospital kept pestering me for gossip every day. Unable to bear the harassment, I finally said, Lu Yi owes my father a plane ticket. So my father sent me to demand a bride price from Lu Yi. Well, the legend then became my father's, but when these words reached Lu Yi's ears, he immediately took them seriously. He handed me his bank card and asked naively, is this enough? My mind was full of question marks as I saw all those zeros in his digital account. I was shocked. How do you have so much money? Won some awards from a few projects, plus payments for decrypting codes for the military. I never used this money. I never expected my boyfriend to be this wealthy. Enough for what? Lu Yi tilted his head as he looked at me. To marry you. My face turned bright red, and it took me a long while to find my voice. Lu Yi, I'm not even of legal age yet, he said seriously. Then let's make a reservation. His depression was gradually improving, but he needed to stay at Princeton for research, while my domestic admission notice had long been issued. On the day I was returning to China, Lu Yi insisted on forcing his card into my hand. It's hard to refuse such kindness, so I accepted it. While packing my luggage, I accidentally found a small glass bottle in Lu Yi's bedside drawer, very similar to the one I once used to slip a note into at his place. Curiously, I opened it and saw my own handwriting on it. Meng Yao is Lu Yi's homeward path. Beneath this line, there was Lu Yi's elegant and refined handwriting, which read, if life has an answer, she is the only solution. Extra Story 1 Lu Yi's love letter. 3 years later, Lu Yi, the youngest Fields Medal winner, gave an interview. Mr. Lu, I heard your previous research focus was always on the Poincare conjecture. Why did you suddenly switch to the Riemann hypothesis 3 years ago? A reminiscent expression appeared on Lu Yi's face. Because of a love letter, he smiled. This is my love letter to my beloved. The media all thought Lu Yi also had a lover who was equally a genius mathematician. Even I was starting to believe it. I interrogated Lu Yi. Which lover did you send that love letter to? Why didn't I know about it? Lu Yi mentioned that when a girl confessed to him in their first year of high school, he had thrown the Riemann hypothesis problem at her, during my stay at his place. One day he noticed a piece of paper falling out of my math book, with a date written on it. Yeah. It was the date I vowed to wage war against mathematics. I rushed to Lu Yi's bedside table to search, and sure enough, found that piece of paper. Beside me, a pair of pale fingers held a pen, writing with fluid grace. 6 also, dedicated to Meng Yao. Extra Chapter 2 Old Meng and Little Lu. In senior year of high school, Lu Yi had just regained clarity from endless exhaustion. Meng Yao lay by his bedside. Exhausted and asleep, he stared at her, lost in thought, when old Meng entered. Leaning against the door, he took a drag of his cigarette. Princeton's medical care should be decent, right? He looked at Lu Yi and said, I'm just giving you a heads up. Before graduating from university, Meng Yao struggled with whether to take the domestic postgraduate entrance exam or strive to go to Princeton to accompany Lu Yi. At the dinner table, old Meng said she had already spent her junior year on exchange at Princeton. And since she would eventually have to go abroad to accompany Lu Yi anyway, it would be better to stay in the country for a couple more years. Meng Yao thought it made sense and was about to agree when Lu Yi suddenly grasped her hand. Princeton has a good environment, especially in healthcare. Haven't you been having frequent headaches lately? Old Meng across the dining table glared with fierce eyes. Lu Yi turned his head and smiled gently at him. Just a heads up, Dad. Story 2. On the day my childhood sweetheart, Liang Sun, was forced by his father to get engaged to me, his white moonlight, Song Yanran, died in a car accident on her way to see him. After the engagement, he spent every night socializing in different nightclubs, allowing rumors to spread wildly. This made me the biggest laughingstock in the circle. In the face of my questioning, Liang Sun just sneered. Since you were willing to sacrifice a life to marry me, no matter how wronged you feel now, you have to endure it. Until an accident occurred, both he and I were reborn back to the eve of the engagement, Without hesitation, he took Song Anran's hand and publicly broke off the engagement with me. Later, I announced that the engagement would be held as scheduled. Liang Sun informed me indifferently, forcing me to marry you is useless. I won't attend the engagement banquet. I was silent for a moment, torn between whether to tell him now that my new fiancé was his little uncle. 1. I stared in a daze at the familiar scene in front of me. Liang Sun's grandfather, who was sitting in the main seat, slowly opened his mouth. Considering that you're about to graduate from university soon, it's time to set the date for your engagement. Only then did I belatedly realize that I had been reborn. Before I could sort out my chaotic thoughts, a familiar voice came from beside me. I don't agree. Liang Sun's eyes and brows were cold and distant as he said something completely different from what he had said in his previous life. I have someone I like. But it's not you, Xia. He glanced at me. This engagement can't happen. I suddenly understood. I wasn't the only one who had been reborn. Grandpa Liang suppressed his anger. In what capacity are you challenging me? Liang Sun smiled and looked at me in a casual tone. I've said I don't like you. You still insist on marrying me. Are you being cheap? The next second, Grandpa Liang threw his chopsticks at him. You scoundrel. Liang Sun stood up unhurriedly. You're forcing me to marry her just because you want a child from the Liang and Yu families, right? There was a hint of frivolity in his smile. Otherwise, how about I take her to a hotel tonight? If she gets pregnant, I won't have to marry her, right? Liang Sun successfully angered his grandfather, who threw the water cup in his hand mercilessly at the corner of Liang Sun's forehead. The boy smiled self-deprecatingly. Before leaving, he glanced at me without much emotion. 2. Xia, go and bring him back for Grandpa. Grandpa Liang breathed heavily and said to me with difficulty, under the urging of everyone. I had no choice but to follow him out. My original intention was to go straight back to school, but as soon as I left the restaurant, I bumped into Liang Sun and his white moonlight. Song Anran, what else do you want? Liang Sun calmly protected Song Anran behind him and looked at me distantly. In his previous life, Song Anran received an anonymous text message and learned that Liang Sun and I were going to get engaged. That's why she ran out and had the car accident. Liang Sun always believed that I sent that text message. I spoke in a businesslike tone. Grandpa wants you to go back. Song Anran nervously tugged at his sleeve. Son, don't go. Liang Sun stroked her head reassuringly before turning back to me and saying, I made it very clear just now. It's impossible for me to get engaged or married to you. Impatience was hard to hide in the boy's eyes. Also, please stop pestering me. His determination actually made me feel relieved. In this life, I probably wouldn't have to be tied to him anymore. My love for Liang Sun had long been exhausted in his previous life when he publicly embarrassed me by hugging other women one after another. 3. I originally wanted to bypass the two of them and go back to school first, but Song Anran stopped me. You Xia, can you promise me something? I paused. Promise what? She bit her lip uneasily. Promise that you'll never pester a son again. Last time I went to check the hygiene in your dormitory and accidentally saw your diary. Didn't it say in there that you like a son? Song Anran's voice was weak but firm. Now, as a son's legitimate girlfriend, I'm asking you to promise to stay away from him. Please understand. I took a step closer to her and looked directly at her. You rummaged through my things. In high school, I always kept my diary in the drawer. Song Anran stepped back, looking a bit timid. It was just a routine hygiene check. Liang Sun frowned slightly and protected her behind him. Enough, you Xia, she didn't mean it. He soothed her in a low voice. She doesn't need to promise anything. I don't like her, so it's useless for her to pester me. With that, he was about to take Song Anran away. That diary contained a lot of my unspoken secret love. How could she rummage through other people's things without permission and still act so calm? I chased after them onto the road and grabbed Song Anran's arm. Don't you think you should apologize? Song Anran bit her lower lip stubbornly. I don't think I did anything wrong. I laughed out of anger. Does your upbringing tell you that it's okay to rummage through other people's things? Perhaps this sentence had a great impact on her. As soon as I finished speaking, her eyes immediately turned red, and she looked on the verge of tears. Enough, you Xia. Liang Sun irritably pulled my hand away. The next second, the red light at the corner turned green. A car rushed towards us. Before we could dodge, Liang Sun, probably influenced by the shadow of his previous life, pulled Song Anran away immediately. The shrill sound of the emergency brake was very close. Fortunately, I was only slightly scratched on the ankle and fell to the ground, and ran. Are you hurt? Liang Sun held Song Anran and checked her as if he had survived a disaster. The two were so immersed in their tenderness that they didn't even notice the driver leaving while cursing. After confirming that she was okay, Liang Sun finally came to his senses and noticed me trying to stand up from the ground. The streetlights were flickering. I looked up and stared at Liang Sun without saying a word. After a long silence, he suddenly chuckled. He asked me with great interest, "Do you think this is karma?" He always thought that I was the one who caused Song Anran's car accident in his previous life. Even though I had explained it countless times, I withdrew my gaze from the two who had left, endured the pain, and stood up. I patted the dust off myself. Fortunately, I didn't like him anymore and wouldn't be sad about it either, for, after that, Liang Sun's grandmother called me to their house several times. She earnestly advised me not to argue with Liang Sun. No matter what I said, Grandma seemed not to listen. A son is more stubborn now, except for his little uncle. No one can control him. Liang Sun's little uncle, Duan Wenye. He was also the actual person in power in the Liang family and the only one who had the same surname as the old master Liang. My only interaction with him was probably a year ago. When I was drunk, I played Truth or Dare and kissed a strange man in the booth next door. When we met again later and Liang Sun introduced Duan Wenye as his little uncle, I wished I could bury my head in the ground. As Grandma Liang was talking, a glimmer of an unreliable idea suddenly flashed in her eyes. She clapped her hands and muttered, "That's it." At that time, I didn't understand what she meant. 5. It wasn't until a week later that I was tricked by Grandma Liang into the hotel owned by their family. I was wearing wet clothes and was stuffed with a room card by Grandma Liang. "Go up and wait for a while. Someone will bring you clean clothes later." But when I swiped the card to open the door, entered the room, and turned on the light, I was completely stunned. An unusual smell filled the room. The man's tie was hanging loosely on his shirt, and he was leaning against the head of the bed. Not even looking up, his voice was incredibly hoarse. "Get out." It was Duan Wenye. I immediately realized what the smell was. I turned around and tried to open the door, but it didn't move at all. It was obviously locked from the outside. "What's going on, Grandma Liang?" I said. "Get out. Can't you understand?" The man's voice was already filled with impatience. "Woohoo, I want to get out too. I can't open the door anymore." I urgently continued to turn the doorknob and retorted in a low voice. Duan Wenye's breathing paused, then there were approaching footsteps. "Why are you here?" He pulled my arm and made me face him. Only then did I feel the temperature of his palm, which made me tremble. "Little uncle," I called him obediently, trying to remind him of who I was. Duan Wenye didn't respond. He lowered his eyes and looked at me. "I heard that Liang Sun broke off the engagement with you." I nodded, not knowing why he was asking this now. He seemed to take a step closer to me, and his Adam's apple rolled slightly. "So, you don't like him anymore." Without realizing it, I had also inhaled a large amount of the gas in the room, and my reaction was a bit slow. Without thinking too much, I just answered slowly, "No, I don't." He smiled indifferently, and his tone didn't seem like he was asking a question. "Is that so?" I slowly raised my head and looked at him helplessly and straightforwardly. The temperature in the air was slowly rising, carrying a trace of restlessness. I felt an indescribable stuffiness. I instinctively searched for a way to relieve it. Mr. Duan." A faint smile appeared on Duan Wenye's lips. He raised his hand and gently rubbed my cheek. "Are you feeling uncomfortable?" I didn't answer. Instead, I stared at his thin lips that were so close. I was wondering if they were as cool as the jelly taken out of the refrigerator. "Answer me." The emotions in Duan Wenye's eyes fluctuated, but the rationality in his words made me seem like the impatient one. I stood on tiptoe and put my arms around his shoulders, but his phone rang inopportune. Duan Wenye clicked his tongue softly and was about to take out the phone and throw it away, but when he saw the caller ID, he stopped and finally answered the phone. "Little uncle, you're back in the country." It was Liang Sun. I regained a bit of my senses. I looked at Duan Wenye blankly, but my action of kissing him stopped. Duan Wenye hummed. With his other hand, he pressed against my lower back, pulling me towards him. The distance between us was narrowed again, and our lips were almost touching. "Then where are you now, little uncle? I'll come to find you." Liang Sun's voice came from the other end of the phone. I panicked for a moment. When I grabbed his shirt, I accidentally bumped into his collarbone. Duan Wenye hissed softly, "Be gentle, okay?" I was dizzy and apologized in a low voice. "I didn't mean to." There was a moment of silence on the other end of the phone. "Little uncle, who are you talking to?" I seem to have heard this voice before. I stared at him nervously with wide eyes. Duanwenya hung up the phone with a "your little aunt" and didn't focus on this. I had already lost my senses. All I could think about was the person in front of me. Duanwenya picked me up and walked further into the room. As he walked, he asked with great interest, "Do you want to do something?" Duanwenya sat down on the edge of the bed and held me on his lap. I nodded eagerly and tried to lean in and kiss him. Duanwenya smiled and turned his head away. He pinched my chin to stop my action. "I'm getting old. I can't play the game of taking advantage and then leaving." "Oh. Is being 6 years older than me enough to be described as getting old? So, if you don't take responsibility, I will definitely call the police. Do you understand?" I was like someone standing under a plum tree, with a dry throat and lips, and my eyes full of longing as I looked at the sweet plums. Looking at the plums couldn't quench my thirst, unless I was allowed to eat the plums. After I promised him several times, the plum was finally brought to my mouth. I gently kissed him. But because I was inexperienced, I pulled away as soon as our lips touched. Duanwenya instinctively leaned in to follow, but stopped just before our lips met. "If you won't be able to kiss me anymore." His confident tone faintly carried a hint of coaxing. "Open your mouth and come closer yourself." I put my arms around his neck and leaned in again, but this time, I couldn't escape easily. Instead, I was entangled by him. 6. On this side. Liang-sun hung up the phone and just arrived at the door of his house. He was still thinking about the female voice on the phone just now. It was very familiar. He pushed the door open while deep in thought. Grandma Liang, who was sitting on the sofa and eating an apple, looked at him as if she had seen a ghost. "Ah, son, why are you here?" "There are no classes in the department, so I came back to visit you." Grandma Liang then realized something was wrong. She immediately took out her phone to check. She found that the message she sent to Liang-sun had somehow been sent to Duanwenya. It had been more than an hour now. Grandma Liang's mind went blank. She had originally planned to invite Liang-sun to the hotel, but unexpectedly, she invited, "Please don't try to match me and Yuxia anymore." Liang-sun was already prepared for Grandma's long speech, but this time, she was uncharacteristically silent for a long time. Then she agreed, "I plan to try to match Xia with your little uncle." Liang-sun's hand paused as he scrolled through his phone. It was hard to describe this feeling. In the few years he was entangled with Yuxia in his previous life, he had subconsciously regarded her as his fiancée, his possession. Now, upon hearing the news that she might marry someone else, he suddenly felt an indescribable sense of irritability. So, he just casually refused on Yuxia's behalf. "It won't work. My little uncle doesn't like Yuxia. And Yuxia also has someone she likes." Grandma Liang sneered. "You like Song Anren. Why do you care so much?" "I originally planned to go see Song Anren when you got engaged and tell her the news of your engagement to make her give up completely." Liang-sun was stunned. His phone slipped from his hand. "What did you say?" So, the text message in his previous life really wasn't sent by Yuxia. 7. What he didn't know was that the little uncle he thought didn't like Yuxia was now threatening and coaxing me. The Duanwenya I knew was always a man of few words. I didn't understand the meaning of this series of questions and conversations at this moment. He pried open my hand that was tightly gripping the pillow and interlaced our fingers. Looking down at me from above, he asked, "Who am I?" I tried to avoid answering. He then forced me to look at him. Sweat dripped down from the man's wet black hair on his forehead. His clear eyes were especially sexy at this moment. He slowly asked for my consent. "Do you want to look in the mirror?" I had no choice but to give in. "Duanwenya, say it again, Duanwenya. It's really sad. Why didn't I fall asleep like in the novels? I have to face all this soberly." Fortunately, I was facing away from Duanwenya and was just about to play dead. "Don't pretend, I know you're not asleep." His disdainful voice shattered the dignity I had painstakingly maintained. "Don't panic." I closed my eyes, determined to keep up the act of being on the verge of death. Duanwenya sneered softly. "Forget it, let's continue." Then, my ankle was grabbed. I immediately became agitated and opened my eyes. Awake, he looked down at me. Heat gradually crept up to my ears. I pressed my lips together and remained silent. Duanwenya got up and casually wrapped his bathrobe around him. He walked to the cabinet and turned on his phone. A few seconds later, he turned the screen towards me. Looking at the big 110 on the screen, my blood pressure almost soared. The man had a half smile on his face. "Remember what I told you before? Was he going to sue me for getting services without paying?" Just as I was struggling with how to respond, the door was suddenly banged on. "Yu Xia, I know you're in there. Open the door, I have something to talk to you about." It was Liang Sun. Troubles came one after another. I stared at the door in a panic, and everything was in chaos. Liang Sun was still chattering outside. Duan Wenya's patience ran out. Frowning slightly, he directly opened the door. "What's so important that you have to disturb us now?" Liang Sun was stunned for 2 seconds. "Uncle, why are you here? Didn't Grandma say that Yu Xia is here?" At this moment, I was curled up in the quilt, feeling desperate, although I hadn't heard Duan Wenya's reply yet. I had already anticipated the upcoming storm in my heart, until, "Uncle, is your girlfriend in there?" Liang Sun couldn't help but think of the previous phone call. Most likely Grandma remembered it wrong. "I'll go and ask at Yu Xia's house again." Then he smiled knowingly. "I won't disturb you and my little aunt anymore. Give my regards to my little aunt for me." I didn't come to my senses until Duan Wenya closed the door again. Was a crisis that seemed almost inevitable resolved by Liang Sun's straightforward and not-so-smart IQ. 9. Out of the corner of my eye, Duan Wenya walked towards me. I quickly picked up my phone, trying to find something to do to prevent him from bringing up what had just happened. "What are you doing?" I pursed my lips. "Buying medicine." Duan Wenya raised his eyes. "What kind of medicine?" I hesitated for 2 seconds and didn't hide it. "Contraceptive pills." A soft laugh came from above my head immediately. His lazy eyebrows and eyes were filled with satisfaction. But the words he said were extremely heartless. "Why are you taking them?" I secretly clenched the quilt, feeling a bit indignant. "Because of you." "What about me?" Under Duan Wenya's expressionless face, a faint sense of grievance welled up in me for no reason. I stopped arguing with him and lowered my head in silence to continue searching for the medicine. The next second, my phone was snatched away and thrown aside. The man rubbed against the slightly red corner of my eye, and his voice was uncharacteristically low and gentle. "Stop fussing, I wore protection." I was stunned and tried hard to recall if there was such a part. Thinking I didn't believe him, Duan Wenya patiently added, "Every time." He also raised his hand and pointed at the trash can, smiling and asking, "Otherwise, do you want to count?" I didn't really count. But I finally recalled some fragmented memories. With the help of Grandma Liang's special effect fragrance, I seemed like I had never seen a man in my life. Duan Wenya avoided my kiss and coaxed in a low voice, "Wait a moment." I leaned in again and murmured, "I can't wait, Duan Wenya." He took a deep breath. His hand seemed to be reaching for something on the bedside table. I touched his ear again and asked disappointedly, "Don't you want to kiss me anymore?" The rationality in Duan Wenya's eyes was on the verge of collapsing. "You can't smell this fragrance anymore." I was confused. After a moment, before he kissed me again, he finally said one more sentence to clear up my confusion. "I can't stand it." 10. A series of embarrassing situations had made me numb, so, when Duan Wenya offered to carry me to the bathroom, I only hesitated for a moment. Then I stretched out my hands towards him. "Then I'll trouble you." Duan Wenya let out a soft laugh. He let me bury my head in his neck and walked towards the bathroom. "Sure, you're welcome." That day, Duan Wenya still asked me again if I wanted to take responsibility for him. He saw my hesitation, but he didn't force me to make a choice again. He just said, "Your father's company is currently having problems with its capital chain, and Liang Sun has cancelled the engagement. If nothing unexpected happens, he will immediately find a new marriage partner for you." 11. Early the next morning. On the way home, I kept thinking about what Duan Wenya had said. However, when I met Liang Sun downstairs of my home, that matter was temporarily put aside. There was exhaustion from staying up all night in the boy's eyes, and his voice was even colder than the morning mist. "Explain, what did you do last night?" Not answering your phone and not going home, I averted my gaze. "It has nothing to do with you." After coming out of the hotel yesterday afternoon, since I hadn't rested and was too tired to go home and deal with my father, I went to the nearest apartment under my name, but there was no need to explain all this to Liang Sun. When Liang Sun approached, the chill emanating from his clothes became even stronger. "Has nothing to do with me." He gave a faint smile. "Yu Xia, the cancellation of our engagement hasn't been announced to the public yet. Nominally, I'm still your fiancé. Does your staying out all night really have nothing to do with me?" Liang Sun's familiarity in saying this stemmed from the previous life. There was also such a situation in the previous life. During my internship, I accompanied my supervisor on a business trip for a day on short notice and didn't inform anyone. On the third day, I saw Liang Sun's figure downstairs of my apartment. At that time, there were still lipstick marks on his neck that hadn't been wiped clean, but he still angrily questioned me about where I had been staying out all night. The man in front of me overlapped with the image in my memory. I looked at him with a sense of absurdity. You took Song Amran away in public, and that was also before the cancellation of the engagement, wasn't it? Liang Sun stared at me for a long time, unable to hide his annoyance. He coldly curled the corners of his lips. Do you know what I hate most about you? His gaze seemed to be scrutinizing and also seemed to be criticizing. It's your pettiness. Always being so calculating and not hiding your jealous nature at all. Don't you think you're incredibly vulgar, Yu Xia? I was stunned for a moment. I was just stating the facts to refute him, but I didn't expect that in his eyes. I was jealous. Liang Sun shook his head and stepped back to create a safe distance from me. I thought I had misunderstood you. Now it seems that even if you hadn't done that thing, you would still only be jealous and petty. You really can't compare to Amran. Finally, he left me with these words and gave me a disappointed look. Liang Sun, I called out to the person who was turning around to leave. Even if I'm jealous, it's not for you. You're really full of yourself. Don't come and bother me again. If you come to me once, I'll call the police once. After saying that, I walked towards the apartment without looking back. Jealousy and losing one's composure. I had heard these words countless times in the previous life. Liang Sun's attitude towards me changed from fierce accusations at first to casual sarcasm later. Now, after separating all my emotions towards Liang Sun and looking at it from an outsider's perspective, thinking back on all the past events, I realized that I had wasted too much unnecessary time being entangled with Liang Sun. 12. After we parted that day, Liang Sun unilaterally announced the dissolution of the engagement. Duan Wenye was right. The next day, my father couldn't wait to introduce a new marriage partner to me. My initial plan was to meet the person and just go through the motions, but an accident occurred right at the beginning. To be honest, I really like your type. In the restaurant, the blind date partner sitting across from me, the young master of the Don family, started a truth-telling session on his own, but I couldn't join in. Because if I were to be honest now that I couldn't eat anything because of the stench of his feet that couldn't even be covered by his 30,000 yuan shoes, most likely he would get up and leave, then I would be severely scolded by my father. While I was feeling worried and depressed, a familiar voice picked up his words. Who do you like? I instinctively looked up immediately. Duan Wenye had his suit jacket draped over his forearm, the top button of his shirt was casually undone. And he wasn't wearing a tie, looking a bit disheveled. There was a kind of romantic aura cultivated by the feasting and socializing in the business world. He looked at the young master of the Don family with a not-so-friendly smile. Brother Wenye. The young master of the Don family stood up abruptly. What a coincidence. I'm on a blind date. Almost instantly, a burning gaze landed on the top of my head. If I were to convert Duan Wenye's gaze into a real temperature, I felt that I should already be bald from the heat. Would Brother Wenye like to join us for a meal? Seeing that Duan Wenye didn't leave, the young master of the Don family politely asked. Unexpectedly, he really sat down brazenly. You continue with your blind date. Just pretend I'm not here. The young master, he glanced at Duan Wenye and then looked at me, struggling to speak. Overall, I'm quite satisfied with you. But I have a point that I really care about and want to ask you. Duan Wenye picked up the fork and idly played with the broccoli on the plate. I retracted my gaze and nodded at the young master of the Don family. Is your virginity still intact? I let out an ah and asked. What? He smacked his lips and looked a bit embarrassed. You know, the first time. Because I value this very much. Duan Wenye stopped his movements. My hand hanging under the table couldn't help but clench. A sense of discomfort like being overexposed seemed to be overwhelming my breath. Just as I was about to speak, out of the corner of my eye, Duan Wenye's fork was thrown onto the dining table with a not-so-light force. What's wrong, Brother Wenye? Is the food not to your taste? I'll order something else for you. Duan Wenye let out a cold laugh. No, I think you're quite interesting. He looked at the young master with an unreadable expression. Someone who sleeps with different women every night. Where do you get the nerve to ask a girl you just met for the first time to remain chaste for you for 20 years? The young master of the Don family blushed from being scolded but still thought he was in the right. Brother Wenye, you don't understand. The Yu family is no different from selling their daughter now. I just think she looks good, so I lowered my standards, to be honest. Even if I ask her to follow the 3 obediences and 4 virtues and take care of the family and the children after marriage, she, Yu Xia, can only comply. I listened in silence. My hand had already reached for the soup in front of me. I thought that in the next second, this bowl of soup would be poured over his head. I had endured it all night and really couldn't stand it anymore. Such an idiot should just get as far away as possible. Duan Wenye seemed to see what I was thinking. The soup in front of me was taken away by him. Duan Wenye placed the soup in front of the young master of the Don family and smiled, raising his hand and pointing, "Look at yourself. Can you see what kind of person you are?" The next second, he suddenly pressed on the young master of the Don family's neck and pressed his face against the edge of the soup bowl. A trace of overbearing arrogance flashed in Duan Wenye's eyes. "She doesn't even like me. Who do you think you are? You're just a down-and-out person who relies on your grandfather's foundation to maintain your dignity." Duan, cough cough. Duan Wenye finally let go of the young master of the Don family, who had choked on 2 mouthfuls of soup. He sat back in his chair and slowly wiped the soup splashes on his hand. Without looking up, he ordered, "Get lost. Tell your father to come and explain to me in person tomorrow." It wasn't until that person left that he looked up at me. At that time, I was resting my chin in my hand and looking at him with a smile. The old man let out a rather awkward cold snort. "What are you laughing at? You just slept with me. And on the other hand, you immediately went on a blind date. I haven't even settled the score with you yet." Hearing him mention this, I did feel guilty. 13. Without the stench of the young master of the Don family's feet, I regained my appetite. I ate and drank a lot of wine. By the time it was time to pay the bill, I was already drunk. "It's okay, Mr. Duan, I'll pay the bill. Let me do it, let me do it." I brought the traditional virtue of fighting to pay the bill to the extreme. Duan Wenye, the waiter, however, had good professional ethics and smiled politely. "No need, miss you, Mr. Duan always charges it to his account." I stopped the action of bringing out my payment code and blinked. Duan Wenye didn't give me time to react and walked directly to my side. "Can you still walk on your own?" I thought about it for a moment and let my face become as thick-skinned as possible. "Well, if you carry me, I can." Reluctantly agree. Duan Wenye smiled softly. In public, he bent down and picked me up, and then left calmly. The familiar refreshing smell on the man invaded my nostrils after a long time. It instantly swept away the listlessness that I had been feeling after being affected by the young master of the Don family for nearly an hour. My nose almost touched Duan Wenye's collarbone. I couldn't help but get closer and sniff. Duan Wenye saw this and said in a flat tone, "Did I forgive you so that you could act coquettishly?" Although he said this, he hugged me tighter. I was drowsy in his arms, until a familiar voice came, "Uncle, why are you with Yu Xia?" I opened my eyes sleepily from Duan Wenye's neck. Liang Sun was looking at me with a complicated expression, and Song Anren was standing beside him. Duan Wenye glanced at him. "Do I need to report to you who I'm with?" Liang Sun pursed his lips tightly, and his gaze landed on the hand with which Duan Wenye was holding me. "Yu Xia is drunk, right? She's like this. She gets drunk easily after drinking a little. Uncle, I know her. Give her to me. Otherwise, she might cause trouble for you when she goes crazy later." Hearing this, I was startled. I opened my eyes wide and looked at Duan Wenye, who showed no sign of letting go, and then at Liang Sun. Our eyes met, and I instinctively blurted out 2 words. "Asshole." Liang Sun, his face suddenly darkened, his act of relying on others' power immediately fell apart, and I hurriedly hugged Duan Wenye's neck tightly. I pleaded in a low voice, "Don't give me to him to carry." Duan Wenye's chest vibrated with laughter. He said the words "let's go" and then took a step and left. 14. When I regained my memory again, it was the next morning. I rubbed my dizzy head and went downstairs while building up my mental strength. I had already prepared to be severely scolded by my father, but seeing my father's unusually kind expression was even scarier than seeing a ghost. "Xia Xia, did you sleep well?" Me, I didn't dare to speak. "Not at all. My daughter is really promising. She's going to marry the most outstanding person in the circle." After thinking for a few seconds, I asked tentatively, "Are you planning to arrange for me to marry that 57-year-old Director Wang?" My father forced a smile for a moment. "You're really different when you're with Wenye. Dad thinks you've gone from being stupid to cute." I froze in place. Suddenly, some forgotten fragments flooded into my mind. Last night, Duan Wenye dropped me off at my doorstep. I struggled with the seatbelt. When Duan Wenye leaned over to help me unbuckle it, I suddenly looked up. the corner of my mouth brushed past his lips. Duan Winya didn't move. His gaze slowly shifted from my eyes down to the area below the tip of my nose, in the confined space. Our slightly heavy breathing only added to the rising atmosphere of intimacy. Just when I thought Duan Winya was about to do something, he suddenly pressed my chin and pulled back to create some distance. He gave a mocking smile. I won't give you a second chance to take advantage of me without any commitment. The alcohol had brought out my lustful side. I stared longingly at Duan Winya's lips and pursed my mouth in disappointment. I still remembered that this old man was quite good at kissing. As if to prevent me from kissing him, on the way into the house, he helped me walk with extreme restraint. My father was surprised to see Duan Winya, but he quickly put on a smile. I couldn't remember exactly what they said. The only thing I remembered was that Duan Winya leaned down close to my ear and spoke in a low voice that only the two of us could hear. Agree to marry me, and I'll let you kiss me. As if afraid that I wouldn't agree, he added an incentive, as much as you want. Did he think I was a fool? The word marriage snapped me back to a momentary state of clarity. Duan Winya, who had driven away the young master Dong for me tonight, made my heart flutter for a moment. Moreover, it was inevitable that my father would force me into a marriage alliance to gain benefits for himself. In the end, in front of everyone, I agreed to the marriage alliance with Duan Winya in a completely sober state. Yes, it was a marriage alliance. In my view at that time, even with a bit of affection as an added condition, it was still a compromise type of marriage in my definition. It was a decision made after weighing the pros and cons. It wasn't until much later, when I witnessed every single thing Duan Winya did for me as an act of love, that I realized perhaps a little later, or perhaps if I had the right to choose, but the result wouldn't change. Generally speaking, under any conditions, the conclusion remained the same. I would eventually fall in love with Duan Winya and marry him. 15. Grandma Liang was probably feeling guilty. After that mix-up with the room card, she hadn't contacted me at all. Only after the engagement date between Duan Winya and me was set did she finally give me a call after a long time. She asked me to come over for lunch. When I arrived, I found that Liang Sun was also there, and Duan Winya was still on his way back. Grandma Liang came to greet me with some uncoordinated movements. Haha, xia, you're here, haha, ha. Looking at her forced smile, I was at a loss for words. When only Liang Sun and I were left in the living room, he frowned and spoke. Did you come here today to discuss the engagement? I nodded, not wanting to say more to him. Xia, do you think you're being reasonable? There was irritation in the boy's voice. I looked at him in confusion. I admit that I've realized I like you a bit now. But if you team up with the elders to force me into marriage, it will only have the opposite effect. Do you understand? I was too stunned to speak. Liang Sun stood up and dusted off his hoodie, looking down at me. He still had that unapproachable attitude. Forcing me into marriage won't work. If I don't show up at the engagement banquet, it will be you who loses face. I opened my mouth silently and then closed it again. This was the Liang family's place. Would it be inappropriate for me to scold him now? 16. Liang Sun's pride finally crumbled at the dinner table, with the clear sound of chopsticks hitting the ground. Liang Sun's eyes trembled slightly. What did you say? Uncle is engaged to you, Xia. He let out a mocking laugh. Don't be ridiculous, they're not even from the same generation. Duan Winya casually replied with an soon you two won't be of the same generation either. Remember to call her aunt. I was still debating whether to give Liang Sun a kind and tolerant look as an elder when he pushed his bowl away and went back to his room with a dark face. 17. Duan Winya drank some wine in the evening. As soon as he got in the car, he asked the driver to raise the partition. I immediately became alert. My tentative words was interrupted by Liang Sun, who came running out. Uncle, are you sure you want to marry her? Duan Winya leaned lazily against the seat and rolled down the car window. Liang Sun looked past him at me. There was a contemptuous smile in his eyes, as if he had already predicted my miserable defeat. Uncle, you might not know that the person you're about to marry used to like me in a very humble way. Duan Winya bit on a cigarette, lowered his head, and lit it with a lighter. It was hard to tell what he was feeling. For some reason, I couldn't help but feel a little nervous. Liang Sun was very satisfied with my reaction and smiled. His tone was even more leisurely. Xia has a notebook filled with every single thing about her secret crush on me. Uncle, with your status, are you sure you want to marry someone who used to like your nephew, a cheapskate? With every word he said, my hand resting on the seat tightened a little more. After all, Liang Sun was Duan Wenya's nephew, The probability of him siding with me was much lower than the probability of him believing his own nephew, especially when such words were so humiliating. Duan Wenye rested the hand holding the cigarette on the window ledge. He slightly raised his wrist, motioning for me to look at Liang Sun. When Liang Sun and I made eye contact, he smiled confidently. See, Xia Xia, uncle wants you to get out and come with me. How could he possibly take a liking to you? Duan Wenye ignored him and just asked me, did you hear everything he said to insult you just now? Not sure what he was up to. I nodded silently. The light in front of me was blocked by a shadow. Duan Wenye leaned in, and the corner of his mouth curled up in a barely noticeable smile. His voice was alluring. You Xia, don't be a coward, fight back. I was stunned and looked up at him in disbelief. I'm not just here to stand up for you. At the same time, I also give you enough confidence to do whatever you want. His eyes narrowed slightly, and he raised his eyebrows. Like right now, wouldn't it be more satisfying if you fought back yourself? I was convinced by his words. Somehow, I really leaned closer to the window, but before I spoke, I turned back to Duan Wenye and asked hesitantly, will you really back me up? The man let out an from his nose. I pursed my lips and looked at Liang Sun firmly. My hand resting on the windowsill unconsciously clenched into a fist. After a moment of strange silence go to hell, Liang Sun, the biggest stain on my life is that notebook. Tomorrow, I'll buy a new notebook and write down every curse word for you in it. Liang Sun's expression changed suddenly, as if he hadn't expected Duan Wenye to react this way. He stared at me intently, his face as cold as ice. 18, even after the car had driven for a while. I was still immersed in the relief of the breast being saved. I didn't realize at all that I had leaned all the way over just to scold Liang Sun, and now, I was still kneeling on Duan Wenye's lap, feeling better. There was a hint of cynicism in the man's leisurely smile. This question was very ambiguous. I didn't know if he was asking about how I felt after scolding Liang Sun or about my current position. Just as I was about to climb down calmly, the driver hit the brakes at the wrong time. I fell directly into Duan Wenye's arms. I felt something soft pressing against my lower back, so I reached out to touch it. Where are you touching? Duan Wenye caught my hand with a half-smile. Since I was still sitting on his lap, I blurted out without thinking. I just felt something very soft. It should have been the cigarette case in his pocket. Duan Wenye slowly raised his eyes, and his hand holding mine felt hot. Are you sure it's what's in your hand? The car was so dim that there was almost no light. When I looked down at my hand, the passing streetlights cast light on the seat. Everything was laid bare. I almost let out a scream. I withdrew my hand as quickly as possible. I tried to get off Duan Wenye's lap, but he wouldn't let me. He held my waist and pulled me back into his arms. Duan Wenye was settling the score. You said it was soft. I felt like crying but had no tears. No, then what was it? Seeing that Duan Wenye was going to keep pressing this issue, without thinking, I reached out and covered the lower half of his face. Stop talking, okay. Instead of pulling my hand away, Duan Wenye held me and changed our position. He made me straddle him. Do you think this can stop me from talking? His warm breath tickled my palm, not just my palm, also the tip of my heart. His slightly deep voice came through my fingers. I withdrew my hand and looked at him awkwardly. Duan Wenye looked flirtatious. Maybe we should find another way to shut me up. The moonlight shone on his eyebrows and eyes, giving him an elegant and clear look like a cedar in a cold stream. My irregular heartbeat easily shattered the disguise of my pretended calmness. I was sure I was seduced by him. When I came to my senses, I had already leaned in, holding onto his shoulders. Our eyes both landed on each other's lips, until they met. I recalled the entire process of our kiss on that confusing night, but probably because Duan Wenye had been drinking. This time he took the initiative almost immediately. He held my chin with one hand and forcefully pried open my mouth. He adjusted the angle from time to time, or he would let go for a moment, turn his head to the other side, and then kiss me again. In the middle of it, I regained a moment of clarity. I pushed against his shoulders. The driver, he can't hear us. Duan Wenye cut in, his breathing slightly unsteady. Again, then I was pulled back into the trap of indulgence. 19. In the end, Liang Sun didn't end up with Song Anren. He told me this news himself. At that time, I was doing group work at Maker Coffee. The chair opposite me was pulled out, and someone sat down. I heard from Grandma that you and Duan Wenye are planning to get the marriage certificate soon. It was the first time I heard Liang Sun call him by his full name. I looked up at him. The dejection in the boy's eyes couldn't be hidden by all his external advantages. I once had a dream, Yu Xia. He smiled and shook his head. In the dream, because of misunderstandings, I did a lot of things that made you sad. The only consolation was that in the dream, you still liked me. He lowered his eyes, and his gentle smile was mixed with bitterness. It turns out that dreams really are the opposite of reality. In reality, before I've even done anything to you, you already don't like me anymore. I didn't have the energy to argue about these useless things with him. Suddenly remembering something, I took out a ring engraved with the initial of my name from my bag. I was about to return it to Liang's son. Looking at the ring, he said calmly, "So you've even bought couple rings." It was a simple sentence, but I felt like I didn't understand it. "What?" Liang Sun said. "I saw the same men's ring on Duan Wenye last time. But I never thought the women's ring would be in your hand." I felt as if I was in the deep sea, and the feeling of suffocation completely enveloped me. Liang Sun's words came from far, far away, taking me back to even more distant memories. In my previous life, I vaguely sensed that Liang Sun had fallen in love with Song Yanran. Although I was disappointed, I didn't want to interfere in their relationship. Just as I was planning to find a suitable time to ask Liang Sun about it, I received a gift box that claimed to be from the Liang family. Inside was this very ring. I thought it was a ring from Liang Sun. I never imagined that it was from Duan Wenye. So that night, when Liang Sun came to see me, I jumped into his arms excitedly and confessed boldly, "Liang Sun, I like you so much." Liang Sun didn't push me away. After a long silence, he hugged me back. "I know, what about you?" I looked up from his arms and asked hopefully. Liang Sun pressed me back into his arms, so I couldn't see his expression. "I've never said I don't like you." That was his ambiguous answer. The subtlety in it was ignored by my active dopamine at that time. It could be said that without this ring, most likely, my engagement with Liang Sun wouldn't have happened. "Yu Xia." Liang Sun's questioning voice brought me back to my senses. I looked at the ring again and then put it on my finger. "What did you call me?" Liang Sun didn't realize I was setting a trap for him. "Yu Xia." I gave him a smile that I hadn't shown for a long time. "Remember, you'll have to call me aunt soon." 20. Liang Sun left without saying a word. I nodded in satisfaction at his back. I was sure he wouldn't come back to pester me anymore. I didn't immediately ask Duan Wenye about the ring, but there was indeed a question that I couldn't figure out. Since he was the one who gave the ring, why didn't he say so? I stared at the ring, searching my memory for impressions of Duan Wenye from my previous life. Finally, I remembered that on the day I confessed to Liang Sun, when I looked up from Liang Sun's arms, over his shoulder, I saw a Cullinan facing us. But because it was too dark, before I could see the person in the car clearly, the car started and drove away. It drove into the lonely autumn night. Not long ago, I saw an identical Cullinan in Duan Wenye's garage. I thought, it wasn't that he didn't speak up. He had seen me in love, so he didn't want to try again. 21. It wasn't until the engagement day that Duan Wenye put on the ring. The engagement banquet went smoothly from beginning to end. The only thing that bothered me a bit was the words of a friend I met during my internship. Her husband is 7 or 8 years older than her. She looked at me with a complicated gaze, as if she were someone with experience. "Sister, be more tolerant of your husband." As she spoke, she patted me on the shoulder. I looked at her in confusion. "I'm giving you a heads up in advance. He's older than you, and he'll get old before you do, you know." What kind of nonsensical statement is this? My little sister simply stopped beating around the bush and whispered to me with a sigh, "The older a man gets, the less capable he is. My husband is like that. Just when I'm about to get into the mood, he's already satisfied and lying there. It's even shorter than the time it takes me to read a short story." My husband told me that all men are like this. It was the first time I'd heard about such a thing. Although I was surprised, I still thought about it, realizing it wasn't a small matter. I sincerely asked for advice. "Is there a way to fix it?" My little sister shook her head and blushed as she said, "You can't count on men. I have an electronic partner now. I can send you the link later. You should give it a try. It's definitely more useful than a real person." I'd thought there was some great tonic for the body, but I didn't dwell on it and opened the door to go out. Duan Wenye was standing right at the door. Judging by his appearance, he must have just arrived, so I didn't think much of it. On the night of the engagement, Duan Wenye hardly let me drink any alcohol. He blocked all the people who came to offer a toast, but just when my favorability towards my fiancé had skyrocketed, it plummeted right back down. In Duan Wenye's apartment, he pinned me down on the sofa, his knee also pressed against my leg. He raised his hand and gently patted my cheek. "Tell me, what kind of partner is this electronic one?" The man's voice, tinged with alcohol, was slightly hoarse and sexy. I immediately realized that he had heard everything. I didn't want to buy it. I retorted in a small voice, "I originally just wanted to buy you some tonics in advance." If I had known this sentence would almost cost me half my life, I would have admitted to the electronic product rather than refute him thoughtlessly. Later, I don't know when we moved from the sofa to the bedroom, I buried my face in the pillow. His hand, wearing the same style ring, covered mine. As our fingers intertwined, the rings gently rubbed and collided, but soon, he turned me over. Although I really don't want to use the word gallop, at this moment, Duanwinya is in exactly that state. Like electronic products, my throat was almost hoarse from crying. My self-preservation instinct made me shake my head desperately. "No, I don't like them, I only like you." At this moment, it was as if a pirate ship had suddenly come to a stop. The state of stillness was a very strange experience. "Really?" Duanwinya looked down at me. I felt a little shy. "We can't go through with this engagement," I sniffled, then shakily put my hands on his shoulders and wrapped my arms around his neck. I replied with a sob, "Really, Duanwinya, today is the first day I've admitted to myself that I like you." That wasn't entirely accurate. If I traced back, I'd find that I liked him yesterday, a month ago, and there were also moments when my heart fluttered and stages when my favor for him grew, but I only bared my heart today. So I still choose to regard today as the first day I like him. In response, I received a long and somewhat greedy kiss from Duanwinya. Between breaths, he admitted in a low voice, "Not for me." A long time ago, the next afternoon, I sat in the study and opened the new diary I had already prepared. I wrote down yesterday's date, then, somewhat defiantly, I wrote, "On the first day of liking Duanwinya, I almost lost half my life. The risk factor is quite high. Today, I plan to reduce my liking for him by 0.1%. If he can let me have a good, undisturbed sleep, my liking for him can increase by 10%. When a ray of afternoon sunlight moved from the tip of my nameless finger to the tip of my index finger, I finally put down my pen. Before closing the notebook, I thought of something. I turned to the introduction page of the notebook and carefully wrote a few words. Record moments of heart fluttering. Story 2, when the cotton mill was allocating housing. My fiancé tricked me into bed. I awoke with a mix of soreness and joy. He said he wanted to give my spot to Bai Yuiguang, a divorced single mother returning to the city, because she needed it more, and I still had him. "Anan, we've grown up with Sister Xylan, we need to help her," he insisted. Naively, I believed him, until, heavily pregnant, I overheard him confessing his love to Bai Yuiguang. It turned out he married me just so Sister Xylan could settle down in the city. I stumbled into the water in a daze. Waking from this nightmare, Jiang Muchuan was sitting by the bed, repeating the same words from my dream. "Anan, Sister Xylan has had a tough life. Now that she's back alone with her child, we really should help her." I woke up gasping for breath to hear those words, identical to those in my dream, lingering in the air that was thick with an embarrassing odor. Jiang Muchuan played with my hair, his touch gentle and lingering, but I felt a chill all over. I couldn't stop shivering. Was it a dream, or a glimpse of a future reality? Why would I dream such a thing? Confused and upset, I dodged Jiang Muchuan's kiss, made up an excuse, and left on shaky legs. Jiang Muchuan didn't stop me. Just before I closed the door, his words floated to me through the chilly autumn air. "Don't forget about the housing allocation at the factory this afternoon. I know Anan is the kindest and wouldn't want Sister Xylan to suffer any longer." I wandered the streets in a daze, replaying the events from the dream. After I gave my spot to Zhao Xylan, she and her child moved into a new home quickly, and I found out I was pregnant. I married Jiang Muchuan smoothly, the man I had loved since childhood, carrying a new life within me. I harbored joyful expectations but came home early one day close to delivery, only to have my dreams shattered. Jiang Muchuan was confessing his love to Zhao Xylan in our marital home, saying he had loved her all these years. He said he married me just to provide Zhao Xylan a home. His eyes were red, filled with repressed and insane love, humbly begging Zhao Xylan to let him take care of her and her child. Eventually, they kissed, unable to part, and I, in a daze, heavily pregnant, fell into the water, leading to a fatal accident for both me and my unborn child. Jiang Muchuan and I were neighbors, having grown up together. He would stand up for me against local bullies and covered for me when I stained my clothes during my period. driving me home on his bike. When I was 16, my parents died trying to save Uncle Jiang. To keep the house we lived in, I dropped out of high school and took over my mother's job, becoming Jiang Muchuan's fiancé in the process. Uncle Jiang arranged our marriage without a word from him, no objections, no refusal. I always thought he liked me too, but now, I'm not so sure. Sitting numbly in the cold wind, my heart felt half frozen, yet my mind started to clear. No matter what, the house was what mattered most to me now. It was the slot my mother left me for giving up my education. I couldn't let anyone else have it. I arrived early at the factory's property department meeting room. The door was slightly ajar. Laughter and teasing echoed down the empty corridor from Jiang Muchuan and his friends. "Chuan, you finally got the factory's beauty, huh? Keep it down." I just felt bad for her pining over me for so many years, thinking she was being subtle about it. Just as Xylan needed a house and we were engaged, I thought, why not just go ahead with it? "You have no idea how happy she was when she was with me," someone asked. "So, Chuan, who do you really like now? Would your father peel your skin off if he knew you tricked Feng Yan'an into bed?" Jiang Muchuan clicked his tongue. "Nonsense. I've liked Zhao Xylan since I was young. You all know that. Even if she's divorced and has a child, you still like her. Of course, if it wasn't for my parents' reluctance to accept her, I wouldn't have married Feng Yan'an. If I can't marry the one I love, I might as well marry someone who loves me. At least she's obedient and pleasing to look at, right?" Jiang Muchuan answered decisively. When he talked about me, there was a faint disdain on his face. Others praised him as a rare romantic in the textile factory. They said that Zhao Xylan was lucky to be loved by him, a blessing cultivated over 800 years, and me, lacking self-respect and self-love, I deserved to be played. I stood outside, clutching my palm tightly, daring not to make a sound. Uncle Jiang is the deputy factory manager, and the others inside were all children of department heads. Falling out with them now would do me no favors in getting a house. I tried to calm my breathing, but humiliation and regret surged like a tide. So, the dream was real. My years of affection for Jiang Muchuan were just a joke to him. If it weren't for the house left by my mother, if there wasn't Zhao Xylan, to him, I was just a compromise. My chest heaved violently. Suddenly, a hand as white as jade rested on my shoulder. I turned around. It was Zhao Xylan's smiling face, holding her child. With gratitude and concern, she said, "Nianan, thank you for being willing to give up the house for me. Why do you look so pale? Are you all right?" I stared at her blankly. Jiang Muchuan's sister Xylan, who had suffered a lot in the countryside, was dressed in the latest wool coat and scarf from the state-run store. Her child's bib was worth half a month of my salary. She stood there gracefully, making me, in my work uniform, seem even more rough and disheveled. That's right, someone had said the day she came back, I looked more like the one who had come back from the countryside. But how could I not be disheveled? Jiang Muchuan, to show support for her, borrowed all my fabric coupons and half of my food coupons. These days I've been eating rice porridge and nibbling on pickles. Several times I nearly fainted at my workstation, but he said Xylan and her child needed support, and their stepmother wouldn't give them their fair share. We should save and help them get through this. Nianan, Xylan has had a tough life. She used to be so proud. We can't let others look down on her. Jiang Muchuan said so, but he forgot, or rather didn't care. If it weren't for my parents saving Uncle Jiang, I would be a university student like him, not a high school dropout working shifts in a factory, tirelessly running around for a mere few tens of yuan. I, too, am suffering. I held back the tears in my eyes. I smiled at her. "It's nothing, Sister Xylan. Just choked by the wind a bit. My tears, they shouldn't be spent here." Their voices carried into the room. Jiang Muchuan hurried out. Seeing it was me and Zhao Xylan, he stiffened for a moment, but quickly, he reached out to embrace me, greeting Zhao Xylan into the room with a normal expression. I laughed sarcastically. He really put on a good show. The group of people waiting to be allocated houses gradually arrived. The head of the housing department, Chief Liu, cleared his throat and began to read the list. When my name was called, Jiang Muchuan interrupted. "Uncle Liu, Nianan and I are about to get married, and I'd like to give my spot to Sister Xylan. Do you think it's okay?" He reassured me by squeezing my palm and gave me a wink. Chief Liu laughed. "Of course, you can." "No." I pulled away forcefully, raising my voice. "Chief, this is my spot, and I'm not giving it away to anyone else." For a moment, the air in the meeting room seemed to freeze. Jiang Muchuan's friends looked at me in disbelief. Zhao Xylan, who had been all smiles, turned pale. Jiang Muchuan suppressed the anger in his voice. Uncle Lu, there might be some misunderstanding. Let me talk to Nianan again. He tried to pull me to the water room at the end of the hallway. I didn't move. Instead, I stared at the people in the meeting room, tears rolling down my face. My mother started working in the factory at 14 and spent over 20 years there just to get this apartment. I have no parents left. This apartment is the last thing they left for me. And I'm not giving it away to anyone else. The humiliation of being betrayed and played washed over me at that moment. I cried so hard I couldn't breathe, my eyes red as I apologized to Zhao Xilan. I'm sorry, Sister Xilan. Muchuan said you've had a tough time. I know it hasn't been easy for you, but I really can't give this spot to you. She was at a loss, amidst the surprised or scrutinizing looks from everyone around. She felt so embarrassed she wished she could disappear. I lowered my head to wipe my tears, hiding the coldness in my eyes. My name and the house were now linked together, stamped with the big red seal of the cotton mill. Jiang Muchuan pulled me to apologize to Zhao Xilan. He didn't seem too happy, but still forced a smile to reassure her. I'm sorry, Sister Xilan. I'll think of another way to help you with the housing and residency. Zhao Xilan also smiled, standing in the wind with her child. Her eyes were slightly red, tears almost falling. She glanced at me with a choked voice. It's okay, Muchuan. I shouldn't have asked for little sister Anne's apartment. It's my fault. Don't fight over me. The child in her arms started to cry along. She looked at us apologetically and hurriedly left with her child. Her figure was as frail as a fallen leaf in autumn. Jiang Muchuan watched her for a long time. With things set in stone, Jiang Muchuan hurried to find a new house for Zhao Xilan. His brows furrowed, his expression somber as he looked at me. Once I've settled Sister Xilan, I'll come back to settle things with you. But Feng Nianan, I never thought you could be so petty. You've disappointed me so much. You don't need to come to the family dinner tomorrow night. This family dinner was supposed to introduce me to the Jiang family relatives, a small celebration before our wedding. Being banned from attending was nothing short of humiliating. Logically, I should have felt sad and upset. But right now, my mind was full of dreams of the future. I absent-mindedly listened and even nodded. Okay, it's good that I also need some time to verify the truth of the dream. You, Jiang Muchuan, choked with anger, turned and strode away. I paused for a moment, then walked in the opposite direction. In my dream, after my death, my soul was forced to follow Jiang Muchuan. I watched him marry Zhao Xilan within a year of my death. Now I'm also remarried. Don't you dare look down on her. Zhang's parents could hardly be pleased with the situation. He had fallen out with his parents, resigned from the cotton mill, and moved south with Zhao Xilan and their child to make a living. He tenderly cradled Zhao Xilan's face. Xilan, let's start over somewhere where no one knows us. I didn't care about their vows and promises. What really mattered to me was that after they moved south, they coincidentally experienced the nation's economic reform and opening up. Catching the tailwinds of the free market, they started a small business, became individual entrepreneurs. Step by step, they made a fortune, becoming one of those families worth hundreds of thousands. Meanwhile, the state-owned cotton mill, once a guaranteed job with high benefits, was on the decline. They stopped distributing apartments and no longer took in employees' children. There were even layoffs. If all of this was true, I needed to carve out my own path before then. I went to the busiest street nearby. There were quite a few individual vendors, but fearing accusations of speculative trading, I had never dared to get close. Now, taking a closer look, I realized the items were indeed cheaper than those in stores. Not only was the fabric quality good, but there were also many designs and decorations I had never seen before. Seeing me lost in thought, the vendor auntie leaned in mysteriously. Miss, these clothes are all shipped from the south. They're all the latest Hong Kong goods, very fashionable. I picked a few items and casually asked, so, they don't care anymore? The auntie whispered with a smile. The South stopped caring a long time ago. Our policies here will take a while longer. My son has sorted out the procedures in the South. It's just this place left. Now, the officials turn a blind eye as long as you don't overdo it. I visited a few more stalls on different streets. The responses were similar. It seemed that the rumors were mostly true. I returned to the Jiang family's house to pack up my personal belongings that I had brought. Looking around, the air still carried a faint scent. He had whispered many embarrassing words when he sneaked me in here. From the shy heart of a girl a few days ago, to the calm heart of today. Waking from the dream seemed to happen in an instant. Fortunately, I didn't bring much. After packing up briefly, I was ready to leave within minutes. The moment I opened the door, I ran into Jiang Muchuan, who was about to bring Zhao Zilan inside. This house was a welfare benefit designated for young cadres by the factory. It seemed that they planned to let her live here. It should have been this way from the start. Why did they have to set their sights on me, seeing the things in my hand? Jiang Muchuan unconsciously pursed his lips. Zilan, you go in first. I have something to discuss with Anin. Before the door closed, Zhao Zilan's probing gaze swept over me. Then Jiang Muchuan cornered me against the wall, his tone impatient. Feng Yanan, what are you making a fuss about now? I'm not making a fuss, Jiang Muchuan. Let's call off our engagement. I quietly looked at him, opening my palm. Inside it was a glossy jade bracelet. You came back just in time. I'm returning this to you. This was the engagement token from back then, and now it was time to return it to its original owner. The winter in Suzhou was very cold. My hand, pulled from my pocket, quickly turned ice cold, but I waited a long time. Jiang Muchuan did not take it. I looked up, puzzled. Why won't you take it? He frowned, a hint of anger in his eyes. Nianan, there's a limit to throwing a tantrum, don't go overboard. I sighed. Finding Jiang Muchuan difficult to communicate with for the first time, I'm serious, I'm not throwing a tantrum. Didn't you say that one should be magnanimous? Since you brought Sister Zilan home, isn't it better for me to leave voluntarily? I don't understand. Isn't this what he wanted? Jiang Muchuan did not respond, his gaze lowered, staring intently at the palm of my hand. The north wind blew through the open windows. I couldn't stand the cold anymore and withdrew my hand first. Jiang Muchuan's expression softened slightly, but his tone was still icy. Don't threaten me with breaking off our engagement every now and then, you know I don't fall for that. As for me and Sister Zilan, it's not what you think. I know you really want to marry me, but let's wait until I've settled things with Sister Zilan. Okay. I fell silent, realizing it was futile to talk further with Jiang Muchuan. I had nothing more to say to him, whether he wants the bracelet or not. Returning it to Uncle Jiang and Aunt Song is the same. Having realized this, I pushed him aside and was about to leave. Just then, someone came downstairs. In the narrow corridor, Jiang Muchuan watched me. He didn't stop me. Jiang Muchuan leaned back on the couch. His mind was filled with Feng Yan's cold gaze as she left. He was somewhat distracted. Zhao Zilan smiled, handing him a glass of water with gratitude on her face. Xiaochuan. Thank you for lending me your house and helping me with the luggage. Once I find a job, I will definitely pay the rent on time. Sister Zilan is still as gentle and beautiful as I remember. Her woolen coat outlined her graceful figure, completely different from Feng Yanan, who only likes checkered shirts and small floral prints. He remembered last night's madness with some relish. Suddenly, he regretted speaking so harshly just now, with Feng Yan's introverted nature. She was probably hiding in a corner, secretly wiping away tears. That was how she was when her parents died, pretending she was fine, only to be found later, her face pale, crying almost to the point of fainting. After all, she is my wife-to-be. For the sake of a harmonious marital life in the future, I should take her to tomorrow night's family dinner. That's what Jiang Muchuan thought. He lifted his head and drank the water in one gulp, a smile unconsciously forming on his lips. Zhao Zilan's heart skipped a beat, and she gently said, remember to apologize to Sister N later. I didn't mean to take her house, just thought since you two are getting married soon, it would be inconvenient for her and you to live together while I have a child. She choked up a bit, her eyes slowly reddening. Hearing his mother's crying, 1-year-old Zhao Zishuan toddled over. Grabbing his mother's skirt with one hand and holding on to Jiang Muchuan with the other, he stumbled and said, Mommy. Don't cry, Daddy, kiss Mommy. Zhao Zilan blushed deeply, hurriedly picking up the child. Sorry, he just learned to talk and can't quite distinguish yet. Jiang Muchuan didn't mind much. Instead, he bent down and lovingly looked at Zhao Zian. He and his mother looked very alike. Both had fair skin and were equally bright, in Jiang Muchuan's youthful dreams. He and Sister Zilan also had such a happy family, although it was no longer possible between them, but that didn't stop Jiang Muchuan from liking the child. He instinctively followed Sister Zilan's cue in his thoughts. Feng Yanan was somewhat dissatisfied. Such a lovely child, why couldn't she just make things easier? Thinking of how she lost her temper and recklessly spoke of breaking off the engagement, Jiang Muchuan's face gradually darkened. How could she be so thoughtless? In the end, he decided to impose a minor punishment as a stern warning. He wouldn't let Feng Yanan attend the family banquet, teaching her a lesson that was neither too harsh nor too lenient, to make her understand that when living together as a couple in the future, one cannot always quarrel with their partner over every little thing. When I walked out of the dormitory building, it was already dark. I didn't stop walking, and managed to submit my application for unpaid leave before the factory closed. Since I arrived late, only Sister Lou was left in the office. She had watched me grow up from a young age and was surprised. Aren't you about to marry Jiang soon? Why are you applying for unpaid leave at this time? I didn't want Jiang Muchuan to know about my decision to leave, so, taking advantage of the convenience of just having walked in the cold wind, I sniffed, pulling out a forced smile. Aunt Lou, you must have heard about what happened in the property department this afternoon. I want to leave and head south to seek refuge with distant relatives. Can you keep this a secret for me? Gossip spread quickly among the older people at the factory like Aunt Lou. She slapped her forehead, suddenly realizing. Her face also showed a bit of indignation on my behalf. Alright, I promise you, I won't tell anyone about this. I used to think Jiang was a college student who wouldn't do such shameless things. Now it seems that all men are the same. If it weren't for your parents, he might not have even gotten into that college. Pa, such an ungrateful wretch. Aunt Lou became more agitated as she spoke. At the height of her emotions, she rolled up her sleeves, wishing she could drag me there and then to trample that scumbag. I couldn't help but smile warmly inside. Thank you, Aunt Lou. Once I get settled in the South, I'll definitely send local specialties back to you. She puffed up her chest. Oh, don't be so formal with me. I've always disliked dragging things out. Aunt Lou said that the procedure for unpaid leave would take 7 days. The next morning, I took a bag of fruit and went straight to Zhang's parents' house, holding the steaming mug of brown sugar water that Zhang's mother handed me. I said, Uncle, Auntie, I want to call off the engagement. In the misty steam, Zhang's father reacted most strongly, grabbing a wooden stick and intending to drag the unfilial son back from the factory for a beating. Don't worry, as long as your Aunt Song and I are still around, we won't let him bully you. I knew they genuinely cared for me. Jiang Muchuan had been beaten the night before, Uncle Jiang had been harsh, and it was said that today he was limping to work, but I still shook my head. Uncle, if I marry Jiang Muchuan, we are supposed to spend a lifetime together. There will come a day when you are no longer here. What should I do then? He doesn't like me, and now, I don't want to be with him either. Actually, Zhang's parents were well aware that Jiang Muchuan and I were mismatched. He was a rare university graduate among the workers' children, and as the youngest cadre assigned to the factory, his future was promising, whereas I, just a humble textile worker, hadn't even finished high school. How could two people with such different lives and experiences be happy together? Zhang's parents remained silent, offering no answer. I sighed and played my trump card. Uncle, Auntie, I think the spirits of my parents in heaven wouldn't want me to waste my life like this. The matter of my parents was a thorn in all our sides. With a thud, Zhang's father dropped the stick and slumped down, his back visibly bending. Zhang's mother also turned her head away, silently wiping tears. Sorry, it was our family's fault. I returned the jade bracelet to Zhang's mother and finally obtained the document that annulled the engagement, leaving with that light piece of paper. I paused at the door, hesitated, and then turned back, intending to say something. Zhang's mother, who was seeing me off, suddenly brightened up, looking at me with hope, hoping I would change my mind, but I only glanced at her and said, Auntie, please don't tell Jiang Muchuan about the engagement just yet. I don't want him to trouble me again. Alright. After saying that, I stepped over the threshold with a sense of relief. From then on, Jiang Muchuan and I had nothing to do with each other. This time, I refused to end up like in my dreams. I'm heading south to change my fate, to catch the east wind and rise swiftly to great heights. Meanwhile, Jiang Muchuan was distractedly responding to the compliments from his relatives. His gaze kept involuntarily drifting towards the door. The family banquet had started almost half an hour ago. Why hasn't Feng Nianan arrived yet? He had clearly given her the address of the restaurant earlier. Even if he had told her not to come, her legs were her own. If she really wanted to come, would he actually stop her from entering? The banquet hall was bustling with toasts and conversations, yet, he felt inexplicably irritable and slightly unbuttoned his cuff. What was even stranger was, Zhang's father and mother, who adored Feng Nianan, hadn't mentioned her even once tonight. They didn't even bring up the theme of tonight's banquet, which was supposed to be about their engagement. They only mentioned celebrating his return to his hometown with a job after graduating from university, inviting everyone to gather. It was too odd. Shouldn't they be furious, forcing him to apologize to phone Nianan? Unable to hold back, Jiang Muchuan pulled his mother aside and whispered, "Why hasn't Nianan arrived yet? Should I go pick her up?" His mother's eyes held the familiar look of reproach and disappointment. Unexpectedly, Zhang's mother said nothing. She just glanced at him indifferently and returned to her seat at the banquet. Jiang Muchuan didn't like this feeling of being out of control. He left the restaurant without a word, his long legs bent slightly as he leaned against the wall outside and lit a cigarette. In the swirling smoke, his expression was frosty. He couldn't understand what kind of game his parents and Feng Nianan were playing. Suddenly, a gentle female voice interrupted his thoughts. "Xiao Chuan, what are you doing here?" He looked up. There was Zhao Xilan, holding a child, looking at him with surprise. "I just came back and couldn't find the nearby wholesale market. Can you help me find my way?" Without hesitation, Jiang Muchuan put out his cigarette and walked briskly towards his sister Xilan. "Of course, I can." Aunt Lu patted her chest, assuring me that she would handle the leave of absence process for me. She even thoughtfully arranged a 7-day leave for me to rest properly. With Uncle Zhang's tacit approval, the matter was well concealed. Jiang Muchuan hadn't heard a thing. I slept for a whole day and night at home, and when I opened my eyes, I felt refreshed. Soon, very soon, I would leave this place, to start my new life. I yawned, ready to go back to sleep. Suddenly, something flashed through my mind. Remembering the child in my dream who had never been born, my expression changed dramatically. My gaze slowly dropped to my flat belly. I sprang from the bed, wrapped myself up tightly, and headed to the black market, hoping everything was still in time. After my parents' deaths, I became an orphan, sitting alone in the room. I had so often wished there was someone connected to me by blood, so I wouldn't feel so alone. In my dreams, I feel immense love for this child, but now, I cannot bring him into this world. It wouldn't be right to carelessly bring him into such instability. Life is uncertain, and my father does not look forward to this. I will have children, but definitely not now, and the father of the child cannot be such a scoundrel. I gently stroke my belly and silently apologize in my heart. "Next time, could you come to mommy's belly again?" The black market was bustling, everyone dressed tightly and inconspicuously, and my attire did not stand out. After much inquiry, I found a vendor in the most secluded corner. He was a man wearing a hood and a mask. Anxious, I approached him without hesitation and asked, "Do you have that kind of medicine?" The man looked up, revealing slightly upturned dark eyes. What medicine? His eyes were actually quite striking. A strange thought flashed through my mind. Ignoring my embarrassment, I got straight to the point in a low voice. "Abortion pills." He glanced at me a few times, then lowered his head, searching for something. "When was the last time you were intimate?" Why is he asking this? I was taken aback and hesitated. 3 days ago. He seemed to chuckle bitterly, stopped what he was doing, and there was a hint of helplessness in his voice. "Young lady, what you really need now isn't an abortion, but contraception. Take this. It's levonorgestrel from overseas. Effective for 72 hours. Just take it orally when you get back. There might be some side effects like nausea and vomiting, but that's normal. Don't worry." If I had been able to complete my first year of high school, I would have taken a course called health education. Then I would have realized what a foolish mistake I made today. Unfortunately, I hadn't, and I could only silently take the packet of pills. Hearing the price the man quoted made me gasp in shock. It was almost 2 months of my salary. Seeing my confused face, he sighed again. "Stretch out your hand, let me have a look." I looked at him warily. "What for?" "To take your pulse." I still didn't trust him, worried that he might be a charlatan preying on the gullible, but this was the black market. I dared not make a scene. After thinking it over, I hesitantly stretched out my hand. He placed 2 fingers on my wrist. After a moment, he withdrew his hand, and his deep voice came through the black fabric mask. "You should be fine, no need to take the medicine, really." Just as I was about to argue, I suddenly heard a familiar voice. Jiang Muchuan was leading Zhao Xilan, shopping at a stall. The crowd was bustling, and he held Zhao Xilan tightly by the waist, protecting her in his arms. Even though there was a distance between us, yet, he seemed to sense something, turned his head, and looked in my direction. The moment our eyes met, my heart skipped a beat, and I instinctively looked for a place to hide. If Jiang Muchuan found out I was getting contraception, Who knows what trouble it could lead to? The stall owner noticed my discomfort and followed my gaze, then opened his arms to me. Come here, hide. His face was generous, with a look that said, if you hug me, you're making a big profit. I glared at him and moved behind him, using him as a shield. Unexpectedly, he turned around, dissatisfied. Hey, you. I sharply stepped on the man's foot. Shut up. He grimaced and inhaled sharply. His voice obediently quieted down. Muttering discontentedly under his breath, what kind of person? Jiang Muchuan thought he must be seeing things, otherwise, why would he see someone who looked a lot like Feng Nianen in the black market, even wearing the same black cotton-padded jacket that Feng Nianen often wore? But he quickly diverted his attention, focusing on helping Zhao Xilan pick items, laughing at himself, thinking he must be going mad. Feng Nianen, that honest and upright woman, wouldn't dare to venture into the black market, nor would she be pulling and tugging with a man. Her secret crush on him for many years was no secret. I kept half a meter's distance from the man. From behind, his head was just at my neck, resembling the closeness of intimate lovers. Jiang Muchuan glanced a few times and then looked away, considerately carrying the things Zhao Xilan had bought. They left. I breathed a sigh of relief. Thank you. The man waved his hand, about to take back the medicine. But I quickly snatched it. Before leaving, I looked at his washed-out sleeve cuff